Get out!
A Spectra soldier does not run. You will remain and fight.
Battle of the Planets. The intergalactic series Battle of the Planets, which aired from 1978 to 1980, was an innovative animated television series that exposed fans in the United States to the world of Japanese animation. Adapted from the 1972 Japanese series Science Ninja Team Gatchaman by Tatsunoko Productions, the series was reworked by Sandy Frank Entertainment to suit Western sensibilities. Interestingly, only 85 out of 100 episodes of the original Gatchaman were adapted at the time. At its heart, however, it continued to be a narrative about the importance of collaboration, courage, and the struggle against evil. In this video, we bring you a complete recap of the lore and narrative surrounding the show. And if you appreciate our efforts, then don't forget to like the video and subscribe to our channel. Episode 1. Attack of the Space Terrapin. There, somewhere off the west coast of the US, beneath the ocean's surface, lies Center Neptune, a high-tech facility protected by its ever-vigilant AI guardian, 7-Zark-7. Here, scientists mine and refine one of the most miraculous minerals in the universe, Vitalimus. This rare substance, freely given to any who needs it, has the extraordinary ability to restore exhausted soil, making life possible on Earth and beyond. However, being freely available did not deter villains from hogging the material, it seems. Zoltar, leader of the war-hungry planet Spectra, is determined to steal it for themselves. He dispatches his latest weapon, a colossal space terrapin robot, under the command of his trusted officer, Commander Gorok. Their target, one of Center Neptune's vast storage vaults. Fortunately, the AI robot, 7-Zark-7, immediately detects the attack and sends out a red alert, summoning GeForce. Basically, they are a team of 5 extraordinary young warriors who defend Earth from outer space danger. Piloting their powerful ship, the Phoenix, Mark, Jason, Princess, Keop, and Tiny race toward the enemy. They make a plan, which they decide to carry in shifts. First, Mark and Princess execute a daring mid-air leap onto the enemy craft as they close in on the terrapin. Once inside, Princess sneaks toward the control room, while Mark searches for the stolen Vitalimus. However, Gorok spots the Phoenix and orders the ship's laser cannons to fire. Unaware that Princess has already sabotaged the system, the cannon self-destructs instead, giving GeForce the upper hand. But when they regroup in the landing bay, they realize something is wrong. The Vitalimus isn't on board. Before they can investigate further, a platoon of Spectran troops surrounds them. Thinking fast, the team executes their signature whirlwind pyramid maneuver, a synchronized spinning attack that generates powerful gusts of wind, overwhelming their foes. Meanwhile, back on Spectra, Zoltar consults his mysterious overlord, the Spirit, who orders the terrapin to self-destruct. As the ship begins its descent, GeForce rushes to escape, only to find that their own ship is trapped. They realize that their only chance of survival is activating their ultimate weapon, the fiery Phoenix. As they go through the plan, the Phoenix erupts into a blazing bird of energy, melting the debris and freeing them just in time. Exhausted, the GeForce later learns that the precious mineral, Vitalimus, has fallen safely into the ocean, ready to be retrieved and used to save countless lives.
Do any harm.
Episode 2. Siege of the Squids. While fishing off the coast of Portugal, a father and his 2 sons, Poco and Peril, experience a series of eerie and inexplicable events. It all begins when one of the boys reels in an unusual-looking squid, only to discover that it isn't entirely organic. Before they can process the strange catch, an unnatural fog rolls in, thick and suffocating. Through the haze, they see something impossible: the village lighthouse, which has mysteriously shifted locations. Then, just offshore, they witness a terrifying sight: a ship under siege, dragged down into the depths by a swarm of squid. Among them is a massive mechanical cephalopod, its steel tentacles tearing through the doomed vessel. Meanwhile, at Center Neptune, a red alert sounds. The ship that went down was carrying a critical formula for converting selodium into energy, a substance of immense power. Fearing that the formula has fallen into enemy hands, GeForce is dispatched to Portugal, where they seek out the father and his sons. The boys eagerly share their account, and when the strange squid is examined, it's revealed to be mechanical, undeniable proof that Spectra is involved. Determined to help, Poco and Peril lead Mark and the team through a hidden tunnel beneath the lighthouse, where they uncover a secret Spectra base. But just as they arrive, the Spectra commander prepares to launch a rocket carrying the stolen formula to Zoltar. In a reckless but well-intentioned move, the boys jump aboard, hoping to stop the launch, only to complicate things for GeForce, who now can't risk attacking. Instead, GeForce follows in the Phoenix, but their pursuit is thwarted when they're trapped underwater in a magno-electric kelp field. They manage to break free, evading another onslaught of mechanical squid, which ultimately destroys the giant robotic cephalopod. In a final assault, GeForce storms the Spectra base, recovers the stolen formula, and rescues the boys. Zoltar, ever elusive, escapes at the last moment, leaving GeForce to flee just as the base self-destructs. The mission is complete, but the threat of the Spectra is far from over.
Same thing about you.
You seem to have 9 lives, but you've come to the end of all of them now.
Episode 3, Decoys of Doom. Chief Anderson receives an urgent alert from the Cosmic Patrol. Spectra has established yet another secret base on Earth. Determined to flush them out, he devises a plan, a highly publicized event honoring GeForce, complete with decoys to stand in for the real team. During the festivities, Mark secretly takes the place of his own decoy, sending the stand-in back to join the real GeForce. His instincts prove right when Spectra attacks, unleashing a massive demon-like machine. As chaos erupts, Mark and the fake GeForce team speed away in a convertible, drawing the enemy's attention. The Spectra machine fires a freezing ray, immobilizing them. Meanwhile, the real GeForce, still with the Mark decoy, realizes what he's done. They launch the Phoenix under Jason's command, hoping Mark can signal them soon. The Spectra machine vanishes into the Arctic Circle, its base hidden in the icy expanse. When Mark and the decoys are thawed, he quickly sends a distress signal through his wrist activator. Before help can arrive, the Spectrans turn on the GeForce decoys, eliminating them one by one. Mark barely manages to slip into hiding as the enemy commander reports to Zoltar, falsely claiming victory. With Zoltar's orders to destroy Earth's power complex, the demon ship takes off. Seizing his chance, Mark plants explosives in his sonic boomerang and hurls it into a control console, setting a timed detonation. He then sneaks aboard the demon ship just before it departs. When the boomerang explodes, the real GeForce pinpoints the base's location and moves in. As the demon unleashes its freezing beam, GeForce struggles to evade it before activating the fiery Phoenix. When the enemy pushes the beam to full power, the ship momentarily stalls, allowing Mark to dump cryptolite into its generator. The Phoenix is forced out of transmute, but the demon remains relentless. In a last-ditch effort, they deploy Mark's decoy as a distraction. The enemy commander takes the bait, striking it down, only to be caught off guard as the cryptolite detonates, destroying the demon ship. Mark, shielded by the capes of the fallen decoys, survives the explosion. As he drifts through the sky, he sheds the capes one by one, landing smoothly on the Phoenix to reunite with his team.
Get him! What? It's GeForce!
Episode 4, Mad New Ruler of Spectra. Tiny and Keop were enjoying a rare day off at an obstacle horse race when they met an old man who made a bold prediction. An old, run-down horse named Electra would win. They laughed at the idea, but when Electra displayed incredible speed and agility, securing first place, they knew something wasn't right. They weren't the only ones suspicious. 2 Spectra agents in the crowd had been watching closely. Back at Center Neptune, Chief Anderson revealed the truth about the mysterious old man. He was none other than Professor Hugo Doriarity, a world-renowned scientist who had developed a way to create and control cyborg animals. If Spectra got their hands on his research, it could spell disaster. GeForce needed to reach him before they did, but before they could, Spectra struck first. Their agents kidnapped Doriarity, and whisked him away to planet Spectra. When GeForce arrived at his cabin, they found it abandoned, except for a Spectra radio beacon carelessly dropped by one of the kidnappers. On Spectra, Zoltar and the Great Spirit saw Doriarity's genius as a powerful weapon. Rather than resist, Doriarity saw an opportunity of his own. He demanded the leadership of Spectra in exchange for his work. Amused, the Great Spirit agreed, leaving Zoltar fuming. For the first time, Doriarity had something he craved more than money: power. By the time GeForce arrived on Spectra, Doriarity had already built an army of cyborg horses, each more dangerous than the last. But when Zoltar revealed they would be used to attack Earth's power grid, Doriarity recoiled. This wasn't what he had envisioned. His objections, however, meant nothing. Zoltar had what he needed, and Doriarity was expendable. The Great Spirit unleashed a powerful energy blast that knocked him unconscious just as Mark and Princess stormed in. With no time to lose, GeForce rescued the professor and convinced him to help destroy his creations. Following his instructions, they activated the self-destruct sequence before the cyborg horses could be deployed. As the machines exploded on Spectra, GeForce and Doriarity safely returned to Earth, knowing they had stopped a catastrophe, at least for now.
This time.
Episode 5. Peril of the Praying Mantis. The Spirit launches a series of brutal attacks on Earth, all designed to serve as diversions. Their true goal? The destruction of the Conway tapes, records that hold vital data for the Federation's survival. If Spectra succeeds, the Federation will crumble. As chaos unfolds, one attack strikes dangerously close to Tiny's hometown. A fishing boat carrying a crew of locals is sunk in the assault. Among them is Captain Jack, an old friend of Tiny's father. At this critical moment, GeForce scrambles to respond, but Tiny is nowhere to be found. Unbeknownst to his team, he has taken a brief vacation and, wanting some peace, turned off his wrist activator. His rest is shattered when Tommy, Captain Jack's son, bursts in, panic-stricken. News reports confirm that the fishing boat has gone missing and GeForce has been desperately trying to reach Tiny. Tommy pleads with him to help search for his father, but duty calls. Tiny rushes back to Center Neptune, hoping to rejoin his team, but he's too late. With no time to wait, GeForce deployed without him, and they failed. Zoltar, ever the villain, mocks them, boasting that the Conway computer banks have already been destroyed. The weight of his absence crushes Tiny. Anderson, furious at Tiny's failure to respond, doesn't hold back his disappointment. However, knowing the battle is far from over, he sends the team back to Tiny's village to rest and prepare for the next encounter. Just as they begin to regroup, a sliver of hope emerges. Word spreads of possible survivors from Captain Jack's ship. Without hesitation, GeForce rushes back to Center Neptune and deploys the Phoenix to locate them. Their efforts pay off. They find the crew alive on a remote island, but there's no time to celebrate. Almost immediately, 7 Zark 7 alerts them. Spectra is launching another attack. Determined to make up for past mistakes, Tiny leads his team into battle. This time, they emerge victorious, stopping Spectra's monstrous war machine in its tracks. And in a final twist, 7 Zark 7 reveals a crucial secret. He had moved the Conway tapes long before the attacks even began. Spectra's plan was doomed from the start. Episode 6. Giant from planet Zar. Galaxy Security has developed a powerful new weapon, the Jet Cutter Beam, designed to combat the indestructible Spectran metal. When Spectra catches wind of the plan, they send their latest creation, a massive robot known as the Four-Faced Giant Gautama, to steal it. In an attempt to stop the giant, robot planes are deployed, but by the time GeForce arrives on the scene, the battle is already over. The giant has captured the jet cutter and retreated to its hidden base. Chief Anderson suspects that the Spectran base is located on planet Zar and orders GeForce to investigate. Upon arrival, the team quickly discovers the hidden base and the giant. They split into 2 groups. Princess and Keop will handle the diversion on the ground, while Mark and Jason search for a way to infiltrate the giant's head. As the mission unfolds, Princess and Keop are ambushed by Buddha statues within the cliff tunnels, and a surprise attack separates Mark and Jason. Mark is knocked unconscious by an electrified gate while Jason is forced to continue alone. Meanwhile, the giant, with the jet cutter in tow, begins its return to Earth. As the Spectran base on Xur is destroyed, Mark regains consciousness aboard the Phoenix, which is now en route back to Earth as well. 7 Zark 7 soon contacts the team, warning them that the giant has already landed on Earth. GeForce confronts the giant, but quickly realizes their missiles are ineffective. The giant retaliates, damaging the Phoenix with the jet cutter. Princess learns that the jet cutter is dangerously close to reaching a critical temperature of 1000 degrees, which could cause it to explode. With this knowledge, Mark calls for Operation Fireball. GeForce transforms into the fiery Phoenix and splits into their individual vehicles. The giant fires on them from all 4 faces, but the team uses the distraction to their advantage. They manage to damage the giant, forcing it into a nearby body of water, where it sinks. As the head floods, the jet cutter's imminent explosion is prevented, and the battle is won. Episode 7, The Thing with 1000 Eyes. Riga, a planet in the Intergalactic Federation, is currently undergoing a rehabilitation process, but lately, the work has come to a standstill. 7 Zark 7 detects a strange alien presence and immediately alerts Chief Anderson, who sends a recon unit to investigate. Upon arrival, the team finds the planet deserted. No sign of the Federation workforce that had been sent a week prior. Communications are suddenly cut off, and the recon team disappears without a trace. Zoltar, monitoring the transmissions, reports to the Spirit that their creature of 1000 eyes is ready for deployment. The Spirit, pleased with the progress, reminds Zoltar that Riga has always been a vital supply outpost for raw materials and must remain under their control. Back on Earth, Chief Anderson dispatches GeForce to investigate the strange happenings in Riga. Before they depart, the Phoenix undergoes a special upgrade, a gold-coloured antimatter coating to protect it from the deadly gases on the planet. With the Phoenix's newly fitted warp power, the team can reach Riga in under an hour. Upon arrival, they are met with devastation. The capital city is in ruins, and there is no sign of life. They track down the Federation survey team's last known location and spot gun barrels pointing at them from various buildings. Narrowly escaping, they realize Spectra is responsible for the destruction. The Spirit chastises Zoltar for revealing their position too early, but insists that the underwater breeding tanks on Riga must remain intact. The time has come to unleash the creature of 1000 eyes. As the creature begins its rampage, 7 Zark 7 informs GeForce that it originated in the Sea of Riga and is immune to destruction underwater. However, it is vulnerable in the air, where it is also most powerful. The team prepares for a high-risk mission. The Regans have developed a high-pressure oxygen bomb, which must be dropped directly into the creature, just as GeForce flies the Phoenix through it. The mission is a success. The bomb detonates just as GeForce charges through the creature, using the fiery Phoenix's power to ignite it. The combination of the bomb and GeForce's attack destroys the creature once and for all. Back on Earth, Chief Anderson organizes a grand celebration in honor of GeForce's victory, and 7 Zark 7, excited to finally meet the team, looks forward to the festivities. Episode 8, Fastest Gun in the Galaxy. Vargo, an aging gunfighter, is released from the San Martin prison after serving a grueling 30 years. The moment he steps outside, 2 Spectra agents are waiting for him, ready to take him to the notorious organization. Not long after, a terrifying event unfolds. The Skylab 2 satellite is nearly struck by a man-made meteorite. Chief Anderson and GeForce immediately suspect that this might be some kind of Spectra trap meant to draw them into space, and while they agree they must investigate, they do so with caution. On Spectra, Vargo is introduced to Zoltar, who eagerly enlists him to operate a terrifying new weapon, the Crino gun. This device has the power to freeze its targets instantly, and Zoltar's plan is clear. He wants GeForce eliminated, with Vargo as the one to pull the trigger. Vargo, desperate for the opportunity to return to his roots as a skilled gunfighter, reluctantly agrees. As GeForce arrives on Spectra, They're met with Zoltar's taunts and the display of his dangerous new weapon. While Mark is uneasy about the situation, Jason, eager to prove himself, rushes out in his spacemobile to take on Vargo alone. In a swift and chilling move, Vargo freezes Jason solid, leaving the rest of the team in shock. The situation quickly escalates, and Mark, determined to protect his team, decides to split them up. Tiny is ordered to stay behind in the Phoenix, as Mark, Keop and Princess take to the skies. But one by one, Vargo freezes Keop and Tiny, leaving only Princess to evade the gunfighter's aim. However, in a split-second decision, Mark swoops in with his jet, causing the Crino gun to malfunction and explode. Vargo, though injured, survives the chaos, and in the aftermath, he admits to GeForce that he's learned his lesson. With the weapon destroyed and his past behind him, the team returns to Earth, bringing Vargo along. Despite everything, the old gunfighter has found redemption in an unexpected place. Episode 9. Panic of the Peacock. Zoltar, frustrated by his constant failures, faces the wrath of the Spirit, who threatens to replace him with a younger, more zealous leader. Blaming GeForce for his lack of success, Zoltar demands a more powerful weapon to destroy them. The Spirit grants him a taste of the Brain Warp device, a new weapon of unimaginable power. With a sinister gleam, the Spirit instructs Zoltar to test it in a remote part of Earth, confident that GeForce will respond, and Zoltar will finally have the means to defeat them. At Center Neptune, 7 Zark 7 issues a red alert after spotting an alien craft entering Earth's galaxy, heading towards India near the Taj Mahal. Intrigued, he notes that there is nothing of particular interest in that area. Soon, Spectra activates its mind control device using a flock of fake peacocks, turning the local population into an aggressive mob. Under their influence, they storm and partially destroy the governor's mansion in Agra. GeForce is quickly dispatched to investigate the cause. Upon arrival, Keop and Mark encounter the peacocks in a town square, but their investigation turns dangerous when the Brain Warp device targets them. Mark is hit, but manages to push Keop out of harm's way. As the fountain in the square breaks apart, a massive peacock monster emerges from beneath. In a desperate attempt to escape, Mark jumps into a cement truck, but the monster follows, forcing him off the road and knocking him unconscious. It collects both Mark and the truck, disappearing with them. On board the peacock machine, Zoltar taunts GeForce, revealing that Mark is still alive. Barely. He then uses a wrecking ball to destroy the cement truck, while GeForce helplessly watches on a monitor. Unknown to Zoltar, Mark manages to slip out of the truck and evade capture. 7 Zark 7 tracks the peacock ship to the Balkans, and GeForce rushes to intercept. Zoltar unleashes the full force of the Brain Warp device, severely damaging the Phoenix and forcing the team to retreat. Just as Zoltar prepares to fire the final blow, he hears whistling. Rushing to the hull, he is stunned to find Mark alive and well. In a futile attempt to crush him, Zoltar misses and punches a hole through his own ship. Mark grabs onto the peacock's leg and contacts GeForce, ordering them to fire a missile. The missile embeds itself into the peacock, but doesn't detonate immediately. Zoltar, realizing the end is near, escapes into a small ship just as the missile finally detonates, destroying the peacock monster. Mark lands safely, running from the wreckage as GeForce arrives. After the mission, 7 Zark 7 announces a well-deserved 24-hour break for the team. Episode 10. Raid of the Space Octopus. On planet Spectra, the Spirit warns Zoltar that the galaxy faces certain doom unless Earth can be controlled as a crucial supply base. The plan is simple. If the production of Vitalimus, the precious energy source, is disrupted, the entire Federation will collapse, leaving Earth vulnerable to conquest. Zoltar is tasked with making his base in the remote reaches of Antarctica and beginning his sabotage campaign. Upon arrival on Earth, Zoltar sets his sights on the planet's key power centers, targeting the production of Vitalimus with a weapon unlike any before, the Space Octopus. This menacing creature is a collection of individual crafts that can unite into a fearsome monster. Its ray beams prove incredibly destructive, tearing through critical infrastructure with alarming efficiency. Soon, GeForce is called into action to halt the destruction. But when GeForce confronts the space octopus, they quickly discover the terrifying capabilities of the beast. The creature's defenses are formidable, blocking critical control units on the Phoenix, GeForce's mighty command ship. As they attempt to retaliate, a single missile from the Phoenix is instantly destroyed by a laser from the monster. Undeterred, the team fires a second missile, but this too is destroyed in seconds. And to make matters worse, the Phoenix's missile launcher is obliterated. Realizing the futility of a direct assault, Mark orders a retreat. The team uses the fiery Phoenix to make their escape, but Zoltar isn't done yet. He targets the Phoenix with a deadly new weapon, cell missiles, which attach themselves to the ship, forcing it to lose its ability to transmute. In a desperate maneuver, Tiny manages to bring the Phoenix down in a crash landing just before it explodes. The team barely escapes the burning wreckage of their once powerful vessel. In the aftermath, 7 Zark 7, GeForce's trusted robotic strategist, quickly designs new weapons for both the Phoenix and each individual GeForce vehicle. Equipped with these new defenses, the team attacks with renewed vigor, taking down 4 of the space octopus's sections with ease. They regroup, launching a final barrage of missiles at the last section, housing Zoltar and his crew. A direct hit destroys the final piece of the monster, but Zoltar and his men manage to escape in a getaway craft, vowing to return and continue their war on Earth. Episode 11, The Space Rock Concert. On a rare evening off, GeForce is enjoying a concert at an open-air park, listening to their favourite rock band, the Dirty Name 5. This group, known as the most famous band in the Milky Way, is rocking the stage, and the atmosphere is electric. But suddenly, the scene takes a drastic turn. A Spectra ship swoops in, kidnapping the band members and whisking them away into the sky. Concerned, GeForce immediately springs into action. At a secret Spectra base, Zoltar forces the band members into mind control devices and makes them record new music. His sinister plan is to use these recordings to brainwash Earthlings, making them more flexible in their dealings with Spectra. As the first tracks are completed, Zoltar sends out his ship to broadcast this mind-bending music over a city. The sound waves are so powerful that they cause massive destruction, bringing down buildings and creating chaos across a 10-mile radius. Back at Center Neptune, Chief Anderson listens to a captured recording of the Dirty Name 5's new single and realizes that the band was kidnapped to create this music. Zoltar demands control of Earth's food processing plants, or else he'll unleash further attacks. Chief Anderson orders GeForce to go after the ship, but warns them to be cautious since the band members are still under Spectra's control. GeForce tracks down the Spectra ship, but the Phoenix is no match for the overwhelming sound waves and starts to break apart. They have no choice but to retreat and dive underwater to buy themselves time. After resurfacing, GeForce heads to Lake Titicaca in response to a distress signal from the band. There, they discover an underwater base and, with determination, infiltrate it into the Phoenix. They destroy Spectra's recording studio and free the band. With the tables now turned, Zoltar escapes in his ship, but GeForce pursues him. Once again, the team faces the deadly sound waves, but this time they use the Phoenix's sonar probe to reflect the waves back at Spectra's ship. The Spectra craft crumbles under its own attack, and Zoltar barely escapes in a small craft. With the band safe, they return to the park for another concert, this time with GeForce in the audience, enjoying the show in peace. Episode 12, Mammoth Shark Menace. A critical red alert comes in from Oceanographic Research, and 7 Zark 7 detects a murky brown cloud of pollution spreading through the ocean. The deadly chemical instantly kills every fish it touches, and the birds that feed on them are dying too. Suspecting Spectra's involvement, 7 Zark 7 orders GeForce to collect a sample of the pollutant. When Chief Anderson analyzes it, he discovers it's made from an alien chemical never seen before. He concludes that it must be from Spectra and warns that unless the source is found, Earth will be doomed. On their mission to uncover the origin, GeForce is unable to make sense of 3 oil tankers they encounter while patrolling underwater. However, 7's ARC-7 soon alerts them to a mechanical shark-like object near the Phoenix. He determines it's a massive weapon and orders GeForce to fire their torpedoes. The shark is destroyed, but it turns out to be a Spectra carrier, releasing more of the deadly pollution into the sea. The team heads back into the air, but the pollution continues to spread through the waters. Tiny questions about the 3 oil tankers. They're not flying any flags and aren't travelling on normal shipping lanes. Mark decides to investigate further and takes the Phoenix's rocket sub underwater. There, he discovers that the tankers are actually harbouring Spectra carriers beneath the surface. He follows them into a hatch on one of the tankers, but a malfunction forces him to seek refuge inside. Zoltar, now aboard the main tanker, notices the Phoenix on his radar. He orders the tankers to combine and activate their gravity ray gun. The enormous ship targets the Phoenix and traps it in an energy field, preventing it from escaping. Despite Tiny's attempts, the Phoenix's hull begins to crack under the pressure. Mark surprises Zoltar by appearing behind him on the bridge, revealing that he's reprogrammed the gravity ray to self-destruct. He demands Zoltar surrender, and with the gravity ray disabled, the Phoenix is freed. Zoltar takes advantage of the distraction and escapes into a small ship just as the sabotaged weapon begins firing on the tanker. The ship is ripped apart, and Mark narrowly escapes the explosion. Floating in the ocean, Mark signals the Phoenix. GeForce rescues him just in time. Fortunately, the tankers were carrying cylinders of liquid designed to neutralize the pollutant. With the tanker destroyed, the cylinders break open, releasing the antitoxin and making the sea safe again. Earth is saved for now. Episode 13, The Fiery Lava Giant. On the small asteroid known as Space Island, geothermal engineers have been working tirelessly in the heart of an active volcano to set up a refueling station for spaceflights. But the volcano is dangerously unstable, and the island is at risk of a catastrophic lava buildup. Meanwhile, on Monument Mountain, a young sculptress named Amelia is putting the finishing touches on a massive sculpture of the asteroid's founders, a project her late father started. Unbeknownst to Amelia, the spirit has been watching Space Island closely and soon instructs Zoltar to seize control of it. If they can conquer Space Island, Spectra will gain the perfect vantage point to launch an attack on Earth from within its own alliance. Zoltar presses a button, and one of the giant faces on Monument Mountain slides away to reveal a monstrous lava creature rising from the volcano's core. The creature wreaks havoc, heading straight for the geothermal plant and destroying it. GeForce is called in to investigate, suspecting the monster may be connected to the carvings on Monument Mountain. Jason suspects Amelia may be involved with Spectra, while Princess defends her old friend, insisting she's innocent. When GeForce arrives, they notice the devastation and tracks leading back to the volcano. They follow the trail into the crater and discover a hidden tunnel leading to Monument Mountain, which strengthens Jason's suspicion. As the team debates, the volcano erupts, and the Phoenix begins to suffer from the intense heat. Tiny struggles to maintain control, narrowly pulling the ship out of the danger zone before crashing into a small pool of water to cool off. They track down Amelia, who is climbing the lava giant's massive form, to continue her work. When GeForce confronts her, she protests, claiming she only carved a great man's face, not the giant. The team ventures inside the sculpture's mouth and uncovers a Spectra base hidden deep within the mountain. There, they find a massive cauldron of bubbling lava guarded by Zoltar's forces. Amelia is cleared of suspicion when the true nature of the operation is revealed. Tiny flies the Phoenix through the giant's mouth and rescues GeForce and Amelia. The team fires a missile at the base's dome, flooding the structure with water, but the lava creature has already been activated and follows them. GeForce splits up and leads the lava giant into the sea, where the lava cools and solidifies, revealing a robot beneath. With the giant neutralized, the mission is a success and Space Island is saved. Episode 14, Race Against Disaster. GeForce is gearing up for the intense African 9,000-mile obstacle cross-country car race, a grueling, non-stop challenge where only the toughest teams survive. Jason is racing this year, and his partner is a stunning blonde named Lucy. As always, the event is fraught with danger, and GeForce is prepared. Knowing Spectra might try to sabotage Jason, the team will monitor him from above in the Phoenix, a high-tech jet. When Jason Jason meets Lucy at the starting line, he's immediately struck by her toughness. As they get into their car and head off, they reminisce about past races, their banter filled with easy camaraderie. But before long, Spectra sends its first challenge, a trio of mechanical giraffes armed with lasers and rockets. Lucy wastes no time, grabbing her rifle and blasting the giraffes to pieces. But as the battle dies down, she nearly shoots at the Phoenix overhead, mistaking it for another enemy craft. Jason stops her in time, and she explains it away with a sheepish grin. The next day, after a night of heavy rain, their car gets stuck in thick mud. Jason struggles to push it free, while Lucy revs the engine from the driver's seat. Suddenly, a robotic rhino charges at them, and Jason narrowly avoids being crushed. The rhino hits the back of the car, inadvertently helping to free it. GeForce, seeing the danger, swoops in with the Phoenix, knocking the rhino into a nearby body of water, where it explodes. But Lucy is still unsure whether the Phoenix is an ally or another threat. Later, 7 Zark 7 alerts the team to an enemy control point nearby. They spot a suspicious van hidden in the woods, near a checkpoint where all the racers must stop. When Jason exits his car at the checkpoint, Spectra soldiers ambush him, but Mark and Princess quickly neutralize the threat, allowing Jason and Lucy to continue. As the race goes on, they face more robotic dangers, flying buzzards launching missiles at them, and a pack of robotic hyenas tearing at the car. But Jason's quick thinking and the Phoenix's firepower help them survive it all. Finally, after an exhausting journey, Jason and Lucy cross the finish line as the victors. But as they celebrate, something's off. Inside a quiet room after the race, Lucy starts acting strangely. She suddenly bolts for the window, crashing through it and falling several stories. Jason rushes to her, only to find her body destroyed on the pavement below. It's then that he realizes the truth. Lucy wasn't a racer at all. She was a Spectra robot, a pawn in their game, now destroyed for disobeying orders. Episode 15. A whale joins GeForce. The AI Guardian detects something approaching Bay City on Earth, situated along the migratory route of whales. The Bay City serves as a crucial marine fuel storage depot, making it a vital strategic location, and 7 Zark 7 notices a suspicious whale among the migrating pod. The robot immediately orders an evacuation of the city, just in time as the Bay City's harbour is struck, causing significant damage. The mighty GeForce goes to investigate, and they spot the pod of migrating whales. As they lower to the water level, a giant mechanical whale emerges on the horizon, clearly the threat they've been tracking. They pursue it, but the mechanical whale mercilessly crashes through the pod of whales, killing them as it advances. Among the chaos, they spot a baby whale swimming frantically around its deceased mother. The team is about to engage with the mechanical whale when a pack of killer sharks closes in on the helpless baby. Keop races ahead in his space buggy, managing to stop the sharks and save the baby whale. However, with the immediate danger diverted, the mechanical whale escapes. The group returns to Center Neptune with the baby whale, which Keop names Nambu. Interestingly, the name Nambu is taken from a character in the OG series. Here, we call the character Chief Anderson, and in the Gatchaman series, the same character is known as Dr. Kazaburo Nambu. Chief Anderson, concerned about the widespread threat to the world's whales, informs the team that 7 Zark 7 has used an interspecies translator to communicate with Nambu. The grateful whale agrees to help GeForce locate the monster. With a sonar beacon attached to Nambu, the team follows him into icy waters. The little whale leads them to a remote area where they discover a Spectra radar station hidden on the ice. Jason cuts through the ice, and Keop inserts a rocket drill, uncovering a secret Spectra base beneath. Soon enough, Skuldoon, the base commander, reports to Zoltar that their fleet of mechanical whales, armed with torpedoes, is ready to wipe out the world's whale populations. Meanwhile, the GeForce quickly sets explosives on the base and the mechanical whales. However, they're discovered, and Zoltar orders the launch of the whale hunting machines. While the rest of GeForce faces off with the mechanical whales, Keop leaves with Nambu to ensure his safety. As the mechanical whales begin to explode from the timed explosives, the GeForce fears Keop may have sacrificed himself, but then Nambu surfaces and Keop, safe and sound, falls in, letting everyone know he's okay. As the episode concludes, Keop is heartbroken in having to say goodbye to Nambu. However, he comes through and bids his little friend farewell as he removes the beacon before returning to the team.
The fiery Phoenix.
Episode 16, Rescue of the Astronauts. During a routine surveying mission on Mars, two of Earth's top astronauts make a startling discovery. Spectra is secretly constructing alien bases on the planet. They store the critical evidence on a small map simulator cassette and begin their return to Earth, unaware of the danger awaiting them. After their capsule splashes down in the ocean, they wait for pickup, but before help arrives, two Spectra submarines emerge from the depths, seize the capsule, and drag it underwater to their massive whale ship, an advanced, hidden base beneath the sea. At GeForce headquarters, 7 Zark 7 contacts Mark, urgently summoning him to join the rest of the team aboard the Phoenix. Chief Anderson briefs them on the astronauts' mission and the dire implications of the cassette's contents. If Spectra is allowed to complete its bases, the security of the entire galaxy is at risk. Meanwhile, aboard the whale ship, the ruthless captain deciphers the cassette and transmits the data to Zoltar, who relays it to the enigmatic spirit. Without hesitation, the spirit orders Spectra to accelerate their operations on Mars. Determined to recover the cassette, GeForce tracks the astronauts' last known location and dives into the ocean. Almost immediately, they are caught in a violent underwater volcanic eruption. Struggling against the powerful whirlpool, they barely escape. Despite the danger, they re-enter the depths, using an infrared beam projector to locate the concealed Spectra vessel. However, Mark infiltrates the whale ship alone, navigating through its corridors until he discovers the astronauts' empty space capsule. Before he can even proceed, the ship's captain activates a deadly robot drill, forcing Mark into a desperate fight for survival. Just as the situation turns dire, the captain threatens to harm the astronauts, leaving Mark with no choice but to surrender. As he's led to a cell, help arrives. Keop, who has secretly slipped aboard, takes out the guards. Together, they retrieve the cassette and sabotage the ship's controls, triggering overall chaos. Racing against time, Mark and Keop rescue the astronauts and escape to the Phoenix. As the whale ship crumbles, Zoltar orders a final, desperate attack. A Spectra ship hurtles toward the Phoenix on a collision course, but Mark activates the fiery Phoenix, its intense heat vaporizing the enemy craft. With the cassette secured, 7 Zark 7 informs the team that Spectra has been forced to abandon its Mars operation. The mission is a success, and once again, GeForce has safeguarded the galaxy from destruction. Episode 17, Big Robot Gold Grab. The evil forces of Spectra are at it again, and this time it is a massive submarine robot. They aim to make it drill straight into the Intergalactic Federation Bank's vault. With a fleet of mini-robots at its command, the machine swiftly empties the vault of the galaxy's gold, the lifeblood of the universe's economy. It smells like a load of trouble, doesn't it? So, the G-Force is called into action, where Chief Anderson pinpoints the last known location of the submarine, the remote Paya Archipelago. It is a sprawling chain of over 50 islands. The team splits up to cover more ground. As Mark, Princess and Keop scout the final islands, they stumble upon a group of Spectra soldiers. However, before they can react, they're captured and taken to the enemy's base commander. But this is all part of the plan. While the Spectrans focus on their prisoners, Tiny and Jason slip inside to locate the stolen gold. Meanwhile, the base commander orders his mini-robots to transport Mark, Princess and Keop to a holding cell. However, midway through, the trio transmutes into their G-Force uniforms, overpowering the machines in a swift, coordinated attack. The commotion draws the commander and his guards below, giving Jason just enough time to locate the gold vault. Working quickly, he loads the stolen treasure onto the Phoenix, replacing it with a fake substance before sneaking out. Just as the team prepares to escape, the Spectra commander launches a second wave of mini-robots. Mark, Princess and Keop counter with a compact version of their whirlwind pyramid, taking down the robots, soldiers, and even the commander himself. With their mission complete, they race back to the Phoenix, sharing a triumphant laugh as they take off, until a Spectra submarine suddenly appears. Jason wants to fire, but Mark holds him back, wary of revealing their position. Ignoring the warning, Jason fires anyway, only to miss, hitting a nearby rock outcropping instead. On board the sub, the commander realizes something's amiss. When the fake gold is discovered, panic sets in. Knowing Zoltar won't tolerate failure, the commander desperately shifts blame onto a mini-robot, ordering its self-destruction. Obedient to a fault, the robot complies, destroying itself, the submarine, and seemingly the commander along with it. Meanwhile, with the real gold safely back in the right hands, the Intergalactic Bank decides to relocate inland, just to ensure it won't be the target of another submarine attack. Episode 18, The Musical Mummy. Something hurtles through the solar system, heading straight for Earth's intergalactic research laboratory. Meanwhile, within the research lab, several strange disappearances are plaguing the scientists, forcing them to turn to the GeForce for protection. Amongst it, Mark's mission is to guard Professor Walter Lambert, the inventor of the electrodynamic force field. As Mark is en route to the professor's home, Zoltar's black-clad henchmen launch an attack, trying to steal Lambert's plans. Mark arrives just in time, fending off the Spectra soldiers before chasing them down, ultimately losing sight of them near a local amusement park. On the same evening, Mark runs into Keop at the park, who's oddly mesmerized by a flute player performing on stage. After a brief struggle to snap Keop out of it, they continue their mission. Later on, Princess and Keop are trailed by the professor's car when they hear a strange tune. As they round a corner, they're confronted by a giant musical mummy blocking the road. The monster attempts to crush them, firing deadly beams from its eyes, but they manage to escape unharmed. Back at GeForce headquarters, 7-Zark-7 traces the monster's origin to the amusement park. Princess notices Keop's fixation on the flute player and, concerned, the team splits up. Mark tails the musician, who reveals himself to be none other than Zoltar in disguise. This is not at all uncommon, though, for the villain. Anyhow, he unveils his plot to kidnap the brightest minds on Earth, with his next target being Security Chief Anderson, using his enchanted flute to conjure the mummy. However, as the monster approaches, Jason and Tiny crash their car into its foot to distract it, while Mark confronts Zoltar but is soon surrounded by henchmen. In the heat of the battle, Mark's sonic boomerang knocks Zoltar's flute from his hands, gaining an upper hand. Immediately, Keop, under Mark's command, picks it up and plays, though rather poorly. But as they say, whatever that ends well is. The music was so disastrous it caused the mummy to malfunction and self-destruct. With Zoltar's control center exploding, the team narrowly escapes, having foiled his plans once again. Episode 19, Attack of the Alien Wasp. For the past 24 hours, 7-Zark-7 had been anxiously waiting for an alert, but none came. Instead of feeling relief, though, a knot formed in his circuits. Figuratively, not in real, worry not. He knew Spectra, especially their ruthless leader, Zoltar, didn't let peace last long. Mark, too, was far from calm. He was haunted by the recent devastation on planet Riga, a place he'd known well. Spectra's attack had left the planet in chaotic shreds, and worse yet, Mark couldn't shake the feeling that his old friend, Colonel Cronus, might be dead. Unable to sit still, he stormed out, but as he soared through the skies, Mark spotted something out of place. 3 jets flying in a restricted area. One of them pulled alongside him, and Mark's heart skipped a beat. There, in the cockpit, was Colonel Cronus, alive and well. Mark's relief was short-lived, though, as confusion took over. How had he survived the attack on Riga? Mark immediately tried to contact Chief Anderson, requesting permission to follow Cronus, but the answer came back fast and firm. No. Undeterred, Mark ignored the order, tailing Cronus's squad, until he discovered their hidden mountain base. Mark landed beside the other jets, but when he stepped out, the base appeared eerily deserted. Inside, he found Cronus standing before a window. He looked at Mark, who realized his friend must have escaped the chaos back home. But then, with a sense of urgency, he showed Mark a case filled with top-secret documents. He announced that he had found a way to take down Zoltar, but he needed the help of the entire GeForce. The documents revealed Spectra's secret Earth base and all its vulnerabilities. Mark was conflicted. This wasn't something they could dive into without careful thought. He couldn't just rush in with GeForce without their full agreement. Meanwhile, aboard the Phoenix, GeForce had been ordered to find Mark, but a giant mechanical wasp quickly disrupted their search. It emerged from the jungle, jamming their systems and launching devastating attacks. Tiny piloted the Phoenix through a daring escape, but the Wasp followed them, trapping the ship in its iron claws and stinging it with a massive poisonous tail. Inside, GeForce fell unconscious as the gas spread. Spectra had taken them prisoner. On the other hand, Mark, still grappling with the weight of Cronus's plan, returned to Center Neptune for assistance. But when he showed the documents to Chief Anderson, the response was chilling. They were fakes. Determined to get answers, Mark returned to Cronus's base, only to find the Colonel's demeanor had changed. When Mark confronted him, Cronus was upset that Mark had spilled their secret. However, they decided to share a drink, but Mark pretended to be poisoned. As he faked his death, Cronus revealed himself as none other than Zoltar. He had planned to use Mark as bait for GeForce, but now that he had them captured, Mark was no longer needed. But Mark cautioned him not to celebrate too fast and attack Zoltar, but he eventually ended up being trapped in a hidden cell. Fortunately for him, the rest of GeForce was already inside. With the clock ticking, they scrambled to escape as a time bomb ticked away. Of course, Zoltar would try to eliminate his foes, now that he has them. However, the GeForce made quick work of their predicament and made it to the Phoenix, flying toward their chance at escape. Zoltar's soldiers tried to intercept them, but were not successful. Meanwhile, the Phoenix's homing bug led the GeForce to the Spectra base. In a swift, devastating attack, the Spectra base and the giant wasp were destroyed. Zoltar, however, had already fled. Not surprising at all. Episode 20, The Space Safari. GeForce was headed to planet Eden for a much-needed vacation when Chief Anderson's call changed everything. Spectra had set up a base on planet Locadia and was making a move to take control. If they succeeded, they'd have a launch point aimed directly at Earth. Without hesitation, GeForce rerouted to Locadia, ready for action. Upon arrival, they encountered Zoltar flying solo on his ship. Jason quickly fired a missile, destroying Zoltar's vessel, but the villain managed to escape in an escape pod, crash landing in the jungle below. Zoltar, for his part, with a bounty on his head, sprinted through the dense jungle. He made his way to a tree, opening it to reveal a hidden control panel. With a flick of a switch, booby traps were activated. Trees around Mark and Princess sprouted ray guns, but they quickly destroyed them and continued forward. Meanwhile, Tiny found some bananas hanging from a tree. Ignoring Jason's warning that they might be bombs, he peeled one open, only to trigger a gas leak. Jason managed to knock the banana out of Tiny's hand before it exploded, but soon more bananas launched themselves at the two. Despite the attack, they evaded the blasts unharmed. As they continued deeper into the jungle, Tiny spotted a deer fawn in need of help. Ignoring Jason's warnings again, he moved to assist. But as he did, robotic flowers nearby sprung to life, firing suction cups on cables that pulled Tiny and the deer toward their dangerous fanged petals. Jason fired an explosive charge, taking out the flowers and saving the two. Elsewhere, Cheops spotted Zoltar running through the jungle and attempted to catch him in a net, but Zoltar threw an explosive to distract him. The blast caused Cheops' space buggy to crash, where he was then surrounded by a pack of giant fanged cats, only to realize they were Spectra soldiers in disguise. They captured Cheops and took him away. Later, Mark and Princess found Cheops' wrecked vehicle and the tracks of Spectra soldiers. They called Jason and Tiny, who were investigating a strange ceremony in an open-air temple. Surrounded by masked, robed figures, they witnessed a fiery pit and an unsettling ritual. The masked victim was revealed to be Cheops, tied to a spit and ready to be sacrificed. Tiny rushed in to save him, and Jason quickly knocked the leader down, but Zoltar appeared, revealing himself as the temple's leader, and made his escape to a hidden elevator. When the elevator rose, a massive robot mastodon emerged from beneath the temple, shaking the ground. Just in time, Mark piloted the Phoenix to the scene, though the winds from the mastodon's trunk made things difficult. Jason, Cheops, and Tiny boarded, but Tiny realized the little deer was in danger. He devised a plan to save his friend. In the end, Locadia was saved, and the threat from Spectra was eliminated. With the mission complete, GeForce now could finally head to planet Eden for their vacation. Though, as 7zark7 pointed out, Chief Anderson might just have new orders waiting for them even then. Episode 21, Raid on a Nearby Planet. Planet Vega is under siege by Spectra, who have established a base and activated a deadly weapon known as the Space Ray. Their plan? To soften Vega up for an invasion and, even more dangerously, send a message to the Intergalactic Alliance. Earth won't act fast enough to help, leading to its division. Time is running out, and it's up to GeForce to stop them. But things don't go smoothly. The Phoenix is struck by the space ray, crashing into the ocean floor. When GeForce regains consciousness, Cheop dashes off to find the Spectra base, sending back its location. After getting the Phoenix airborne again, the team heads toward the base. Cheop stays behind in his space buggy, while the others board a tram. At one point, Jason and Tiny get off to explore, leaving Mark and Princess to continue toward the control center. That's when Zoltar reveals he's been watching them the entire time. Captured, Cheop is placed in a second space ray aimed at Earth. Mark and Princess manage to escape the trap, but Zoltar boards the ray machine first. Determined to stop him, they fight their way to the machine where Princess frees Cheop. Quick thinking, she rewires part of the ship and sets a timer on one of her yo-yo bombs. Meanwhile, Tiny and Jason have fired cable guns at the machine, attaching themselves to it to help the team escape. Hanging on for dear life, Mark throws his sonic boomerang at the ray gun, blocking it from firing. With the team hanging on, they're lifted into the air just as Zoltar prepares to use the space ray. However, Mark's quick thinking saves them, preventing the gun from firing. Tiny and Jason, with Mark in tow, drop safely back to the desert floor as Zoltar and his commander struggle to figure out what went wrong. Meanwhile, Cheop and Princess too escape the wreckage of the ray machine, but Zoltar survives. As usual, he vows that he'll have his revenge eventually.
Hang in there.
Episode 22, The Ghostly Grasshopper. A massive whirlwind rips through the world's largest water storage center near Cosmic City, leaving devastation in its wake. The culprit, a new and formidable enemy, Dumbo, and his terrifying grasshopper robot. This new villain has been offered a chance to get independence for himself and his robot army from Spectra, but only if he can force Earth to surrender. And here he is, raising a typhoon-like chaos. In the aftermath of the storm, Mark discovers that the Federation's weather control missiles have been rendered useless, disabled by some form of electronic interference. As if that weren't enough, the Phoenix encounters a ghostly apparition, a fiery Spectra robot commander. With deadly speed, it attacks, slamming the Phoenix with high-speed winds and a scorching assault. The ship's structural integrity is pushed to its limits, and despite Mark's attempt to fight back, the Spectra machine slices his rockets apart in mid-air. The Phoenix is battered, its hull cracking, and it crashes into the ocean. The damage is catastrophic, forcing GeForce to return to Center Neptune for repairs. Later on, at headquarters, Chief Anderson reveals their last hope: new weather control missiles developed by Professor Kenton, designed to counteract the violent winds from Spectra's machine. Meanwhile, Dumbo continues his destructive campaign. To remedy the situation, GeForce launches another assault on the grasshopper, but the Phoenix is once again ensnared by its powerful talons. Dumbo believes he has won, thinking the GeForce team won't dare fire on him while he has their ship trapped. However, he sorely underestimates the group's resolve and the true purpose of the weather control missiles. Meanwhile, inside the Phoenix, Mark sees the missiles are working. A typhoon begins to form, and the storm grows in power, throwing the grasshopper into disarray. Dumbo attempts to escape the fury of the storm, but the force of nature is too much. The grasshopper begins to lose its grip, and a combination of the storm's force, lightning strikes, and Tiny engaging full boosters gives the Phoenix the power it needs to break free. The grasshopper wasn't so lucky. It couldn't escape the storm's rage, its destruction inevitable as the pressure kept on building full stream. As the chaos settles, the AI savior, 7-Zark-7, reports that all Spectra soldiers aboard the grasshopper have been captured, and Earth escapes brutality once more. Episode 23, Space Rocket Escort. The episode begins with Chief Anderson urgently calling an emergency meeting with GeForce at Camp Parker. As Mark heads there, Colonel Cronus of the planet Riga zooms alongside him in his jet before playfully darting off into the sky. Riga is basically Earth's sister planet, and Mark can't help but wonder why Cronus is so far from home. Upon arrival, Anderson briefs Mark, revealing that Cronus requested clearance to visit Earth, but the request was denied. Anderson is suspicious, Cronus, concerned that Zoltar may be impersonating Cronus. To make matters worse, Anderson shares that a new spacecraft, the FY-9, is scheduled to be delivered to Riga, with the Phoenix assigned to escort it. However, unbeknownst to anyone, the pilots of the FY-9 have already been replaced by Spectra agents. As they head toward Riga, 7 Zark 7 notices that the FY-9 has veered off course, heading towards Spectra instead. Communication with the Phoenix is blocked, and the team has no idea what's happening. Then, a squadron of Riga fighters attacks the FY-9, just as the rogue pilots launch a rocket at the Phoenix. Mark springs into action, launching his jet to investigate. Meanwhile, one of the Riga fighters secretly launches a time bomb missile into the FY-9's undercarriage. The Riga fighters then retreat, leaving the situation dire. Jason informs Mark that the FY-9's crew isn't responding. Their communications are jammed, and they're no longer above Riga. Mark orders the team to stick with the FY-9 while he pursues Cronus alone. The chase leads them to Omega 2, a desolate planet under Spectra's control in the Crab Nebula. The FY-9 lands in a hidden base inside a volcano, but the Phoenix is quickly ensnared by a traction beam, losing power and being dragged into the base. Inside, GeForce is knocked unconscious by a strange pink gas. Meanwhile, Cronus lands his jet in a nearby field, and Mark follows, demanding answers. However, with the clock ticking, Mark realizes they need to free GeForce and escape before everything blows sky high. The two quickly infiltrate the base, free the team, and rush to the Phoenix. They barely make it out, just in time to watch the missile detonate, destroying both the FY-9 and the Spectra base. Episode 24. Museum of Mystery. 7 Zark 7 picks up an urgent signal from a remote area on Earth where something strange is happening. Scanning the mountainous terrain, he's shocked to discover a massive imperial mastodon emerging from the ground. An extinct creature thought to have been gone for millions of years. But 7 Zark 7 quickly realizes this isn't a prehistoric animal, it's a disguised Spectra ship, and it's under Zoltar's command. His mission is to destroy the Earth Resource Center, located just behind the Joyland amusement park, hoping to scare people away and destroy the center before anyone notices. Meanwhile, Princess and Keop are enjoying a day at the park when the mastodon launches its attack. The rest of GeForce rushes to the scene, managing to drive the massive machine off, but during the chaos, Princess loses her GeForce shoe. When she reports the loss to Chief Anderson back at Center Neptune, he's furious. Without her shoes, Princess can't transform into her GeForce uniform, rendering her useless to the team. However, a Spectran worker discovers the missing shoe lodged between the mastodon's toes, and after being thrown into an incinerator, it emerges completely unharmed. The discovery catches Zoltar's attention, who orders his scientists to investigate. When they expose the shoe to intense radiation, it mysteriously transforms back into Princess's boot. Zoltar orders them to figure out how to exploit this strange phenomenon. To do so, Zoltar teams up with Madame Demain, the owner of Tomorrow's Woman Cosmetics, to create a fake contest. The contest uses a mannequin modelled after Princess to select the next Tomorrow's Woman. When Princess enters the contest, she fits the form, along with several other contestants, but they are all knocked unconscious with gas and taken to Spectra's hidden base. Though Princess is captured, she manages to send a covert emergency signal to GeForce using her wrist activator. The team detects the signal, but they lose it when she has to stop tapping to avoid being noticed. Zoltar inspects the girls and prepares to execute his plan, but just as he nears Princess, an alarm sounds, the arrival of GeForce. Using the distraction, Princess breaks free and rescues the other girls. She finds her missing shoe, but, in doing so, sets off another alarm. Zoltar corners them, but just as he threatens to capture them, Mark, Jason, and Keop break in. After a brief confrontation, they manage to escape, with Mark planting a homing beacon on the base's wall. As they flee in the Phoenix, Zoltar fires missiles at them from the Mastodon, but the missiles turn back and destroy both the Spectra base and the Mastodon. Zoltar barely escapes, and GeForce is left victorious for now. Episode 25. Silent City. 7 Zark 7 is deeply concerned about planet Exor. A massive explosion has rocked the planet's largest city, which is now surrounded by a deadly radiation wall. Fortunately, A mysterious voice had warned the inhabitants about the disaster in advance, allowing them to escape without harm. However, when a squadron of robot planes is sent to investigate and capture images of the city, they are instantly disintegrated the moment they touch the radiation barrier. Chief Anderson suspects that Spectra is behind the attack, having bombed the city and set up a secret base on Exor. He dispatches GeForce to investigate, explaining that the Phoenix will be outfitted with a special protective coating that will allow it to break through the radiation wall and survive inside for 1 hour. But in order to breach the barrier, they must set off an equal amount of heat, requiring them to transmute. Meanwhile, Zoltar, disguised as Chief Anderson, is reprimanding his underlings for requesting extra time on their current plan. He reveals that the Exor base is nothing more than a fabrication designed to lure GeForce to the planet. Despite their reservations, GeForce is equipped with the coating and transmutes into the fiery Phoenix to break through the radiation barrier. Upon landing inside the city, they detransmute and step outside. Princess's mini Geiger reveals that the city is now free of radiation, but they soon notice the buildings rapidly corroding. Checking the Geiger again, Princess realizes that radiation is once again drifting in from the outer belt. Panic sets in as the team races back to the Phoenix. The corroding debris converges to form a monstrous mechanical creature, and GeForce takes off. Just as it completes its transformation, the monster grabs the Phoenix, and though GeForce manages to break free, part of its claw detaches and clings to the Phoenix, dissolving the ship's hull. As the creature closes in once more, GeForce uses the Phoenix's fiery mode to melt both the monster and the corrosive material. They escape the radiation wall and pass out from exhaustion, only to wake up on an aircraft carrier. To their surprise, Chief Anderson greets them, claiming their ship is refueled and ready to head back into the city. However, when Mark checks the Phoenix's fuel gauge, Tiny reports it's nearly empty. Anderson overhears and tries to brush it off, but Mark confronts him, realizing that Anderson had known there was no base on Exor. Anderson reveals his true identity, Zoltar, and an army of Spectra soldiers surrounds them. As they fight back, Zoltar escapes once again, leaving a chilling promise. The next time they meet, things will be different. Mark orders the Phoenix refueled and sets course for Earth to check on the real Chief Anderson.
Zoltar! How did you get here?
Episode 26, Microfilm Mystery. 7 Zark 7 eagerly anticipated the arrival of his new assistant, the Metamorphosis 1, a cutting-edge machine designed to streamline operations at Center Neptune. Still under construction at the Robot Center, the Metamorphosizer, as it was also called, was programmed with intricate knowledge of Center Neptune's computer systems, making it an invaluable asset. However, the sinister forces of Spectra had other plans. The Spirit saw the Metamorphosizer as the perfect tool to hijack Center Neptune's computers and force Earth to surrender. Under Spectran control, the robots at the Robot Center turned on their creators, attacking the laboratory. As chaos erupted, Zoltar arrived triumphant. With the Metamorphosizer and its blueprints in his grasp, he was poised to seize control of Earth's defenses. GeForce rushed to stop him, but Zoltar was one step ahead. He commanded the Metamorphosizer to shift from its original lizard-like form into a centipede-shaped high-speed train, using its transformative abilities to slip away into a hidden mountainside tunnel, his secret base. Determined to track it down, Keop ventured into the tunnel alone, hoping to uncover Zoltar's lair. Chief Anderson devised a desperate plan. If they could reprogram the Metamorphosizer with a microfilm neutralizer, they could wrest control away from Spectra. Keop's mission was clear: infiltrate the base and retrieve the microfilm. Moving stealthily through the enemy stronghold, he discovered the armory and used a trail of gunpowder to trigger a massive explosion, creating a diversion. Amid the confusion, he seized the microfilm and made a daring escape. Exhausted but victorious, Keop stumbled into Anderson's home, clutching the stolen microfilm. Anderson praised his bravery, while 7 Zark 7 quickly designed a specialized tape to neutralize the Metamorphosizer. The final step was to insert it into the machine's computer. As GeForce launched their assault, Zoltar reprogrammed the Metamorphosizer once more. Seizing the moment, Mark infiltrated the transforming machine and fought his way to the control room. After a tense struggle with Zoltar, he managed to insert the neutralizer. Zoltar, as always, escaped through a hidden trapdoor, slipping from their grasp. grasp once again. In the aftermath, 7 Zark 7 revealed that the now defunct metamorphosizer had been converted into an amusement park. Though he had lost his potential new assistant, he mused that perhaps too much emphasis was placed on bigger, more complicated technology. In the end, he was content, knowing that the battle had been won. Episode 27, Mission to Inner Space. A massive 3-section robot resembling a giant beetle descends from space, burrowing deep underground and causing critical damage to Nuclear Complex 9. Initially, it appears to be a simple hit-and-run attack, but Chief Anderson quickly realizes the true danger. A powerful explosive has been sent down the complex's main drilling shaft. If it reaches the magma stratum, the resulting magnitude 9 earthquake could devastate the region. Recognizing that GeForce specializes in outer space, not underground missions, Anderson enlists the help of Dr. Carrig, Earth's top geologist. From the start, Carrig rubs the team the wrong way, openly dismissing Princess and Keop's abilities. When Keop shows interest in Carrig's pet chimpanzee, Cindy, Carrig insults him again, deepening the rift between them. The team relocates to Excelsior, a city of 5 million directly in harm's way, to begin the operation. Keop leads the underground expedition in his star buggy, with the rest following in a specialized craft. As they dig, they're ambushed by a robot beetle vehicle. Keop manages to trap it and escape, but the danger is far from over. Reaching a critical point near the magma, GeForce prepares to intercept the explosive. Suddenly, the robot beetle crashes through the tunnel ceiling, targeting Keop. Mark joins him in the star buggy, while the rest continue the mission. Mark sets a timer on his sonic boomerang and lodges it into the beetle's back before escaping. Meanwhile, Jason, Tiny, and Princess hit an impasse. They need to plant a charge but can't reach the ceiling. Cindy could climb up and attach a cable, but Carrig refuses to let her go. After a heated argument, Princess forcibly lasses Cindy away. Just as Jason prepares to send Cindy up, Zoltar's voice crackles through a communicator on her collar. Carrig, revealing himself as a Spectra agent, pulls a gun on the team. Believing Spectra respects his love for animals, he forces GeForce to surrender their weapons, which Cindy retrieves for him. As Mark and Keop struggle to push the explosive back, it crashes into the ship's viewing port, propelling it backward. Zoltar, furious, orders the robot beetle to finish the job. Realizing their only hope is Cindy, Carrig finally allows her to disable the explosive's reactor. Meanwhile, Mark's sonic boomerang detonates, destroying the beetle and shifting the explosive's trajectory just enough to wedge it in place, preventing catastrophe. However, Carrig is trapped beneath it. Later, as the disarmed explosive is safely removed, Cindy returns to GeForce. 7 Zark 7 reports that Dr. Carrig will survive. Once recovered, he intends to switch sides and work with GeForce, proving that even misguided loyalty can be redeemed. Episode 28. A swarm of robot ants. 7 Zark 7's monitors suddenly light up with thousands of unidentified objects heading straight for Earth. As the alarms blare, the truth becomes clear. It's a swarm of robot ants from an unknown alien galaxy. The mechanical insects land and begin wreaking havoc at the solar fusion plant, secreting an acidic substance that eats through metal with alarming speed. With no time to waste, GeForce is called into action when traditional explosives prove ineffective against the sheer number of tiny invaders. Jason devises a bold plan, blowing a hole in a nearby aqueduct to unleash a flood that will wash the ants away. The strategy works, and in the aftermath, the team manages to capture one of the robotic creatures, bringing it back to Center Neptune for analysis. Chief Anderson soon discovers that the ant is a highly advanced mechanical device constructed from a rare metal originating from the distant planet Tramulus. Determined to track down the source, GeForce follows the captured ant back to Tramulus. There, they find not just one, but 2 towering anthills teeming with the robotic creatures. As Mark, Jason, Princess, and Keop monitor the site overnight, the ground beneath them suddenly gives way, plunging them into a hidden underground base. There, they come face to face with the sinister Antoff, who reveals his treacherous alliance with Spectra. In exchange for eliminating GeForce, he will be granted dominion over Earth. Antoff traps the team inside an impenetrable glass dome, leaving them to their fate. But Keop, ever resourceful, modifies his bolos by adding explosive powder. He sets a timer, and the makeshift bomb successfully shatters the dome, allowing them to escape. As they make their way back to the Phoenix, they stumble upon a massive cocoon, just in time to witness it hatch into a colossal ant robot. Antoff and his crew board the giant creature and set their course for Earth. Before GeForce can intervene, Earth's fighter jets engage, forcing the robotic ant into a tunnel. GeForce, armed with a new sunlight-powered electroblast weapon, prepares for the showdown. They activate the Phoenix's solar refractor screen to harness sunlight, but as they fire, clouds roll in, weakening the weapon's effectiveness. As the ant turns on the Phoenix, Tiny struggles to maneuver above the cloud cover. Just in time, Earth's fighter planes launch a missile barrage, buying GeForce the precious seconds needed to recharge. With a final blast of concentrated sunlight, they incinerate the robotic menace. With Antoff and his crew captured and the Spectra Perilous alliance shattered, peace is restored. Back at base, GeForce finally takes a well-earned break, celebrating the victory with some well-deserved disco dancing. Episode 29. Cupid does it to Cheop. GeForce was enjoying a rare day off when Cheop decided to go sightseeing in his space bubble. As he soared over a vast forest, a grand castle nestled among the trees caught his eye. On one of its sun-drenched patios, a young woman lounged, her golden hair glinting in the light. Cheop's heart did a little flip, but when he circled back for another look, she had already disappeared inside. He sighed, a little love-struck and a little disappointed, before heading home. Later that evening, a breaking news report flashed across the screen. The girl he had seen, Julie Leslie, daughter of Earth's representative in the Intergalactic Federation of Planets, had been kidnapped. Authorities suspected Spectra was behind the abduction, using her as leverage to gain Federation membership. Cheop's pulse quickened. He knew he had to do something. Returning to the castle under the cover of night, Cheop skillfully took down a handful of Spectran guards and slipped inside. He found Julie locked away in one of the castle's towers and freed her, ensuring her safe return to her grateful parents. Though relieved, a bittersweet feeling settled in his chest. Would he ever see her again? Meanwhile, the captured Spectran guards faced interrogation, but when the police chief dismissed his officers for having a private word with them, he revealed himself to be a Spectra agent who had replaced the real chief. Speaking with an enraged Zoltar later, he reassured his commander a new plan was already in motion. Days later, a letter arrived for Cheop, supposedly from Julie, asking to meet at an amusement park. Overjoyed, he rushed to the location, only to find the park eerily empty. His instincts screamed that something was wrong. Before he and Julie could escape, massive steel gates locked them inside. As GeForce searched for their missing teammate, they were forced into battle with a monstrous Spectran lobster, ultimately defeating it after an intense underwater struggle. Meanwhile, inside the amusement park, Cheop and Julie dodged a towering robotic caterpillar. Julie collapsed from exhaustion, just as Mark and the others arrived with a plan, using a dummy of Cheop to distract Zoltar, allowing the real Cheop to suit up and get Julie to safety. With his plan crumbling, Zoltar and the fake chief activated their escape rocket, vanishing into the sky. GeForce rushed Julie to a hospital, where she finally awoke, only to deliver news that shattered Cheop's heart. Her family was being transferred to the distant Andromeda galaxy. He forced a smile in front of his teammates, pretending he was fine, but once alone, he slumped in his seat, eyes downcast, his heart quietly aching. Episode 30. Raid of the Red Scorpion. A Spectra Scorpion ship, commanded by the ruthless Garts, launches a devastating attack on Earth's energy design laboratories and manufacturing factories. Chief Anderson suspects a larger plan to cripple Earth's entire energy complex. But when he mentions Garts' name, Mark goes rigid, his expression darkening, before silently leaving the room. The rest of GeForce watches as Anderson explains. Garts is the man who murdered Mark's father. At the Intergalactic Federation building, representatives from across the galaxy gather for an emergency summit. Mark, lost in thought near a reflecting pool, hears a faint cry for help. He rushes to find a wounded delegate lying in the water, barely conscious. The insignia on the man's lapel tells Mark everything. Spectra attacked him and intends to replace him with an imposter. Bursting into the assembly, Mark spots a man sitting under the wounded delegate's flag. Without hesitation, he hurls his sonic boomerang. The imposter dodges dodges, launching his cigar at Mark, which explodes at his feet. As smoke and chaos erupt, the imposter leaps to a chandelier and sneers. He is Gartz. Before Mark can strike again, Gartz crashes through a window and escapes. Mark is on him in seconds, leaping into a car and chasing Gartz through the city streets and into the countryside. The pursuit ends when Mark cuts Gartz off, forcing both of their cars over a cliff. Gartz is thrown clear and knocked unconscious. Mark stands over him, fists clenched. Back at Center Neptune, Mark takes charge of the interrogation, using flashing lights and sound to break Gartz. Jason urges restraint, arguing that questioning must be done the right way, not through brute force, but Mark is unrelenting. When Anderson expresses concern, Mark retorts, "Have you ever wanted to take the gloves off?" Under pressure, Gartz leads them to a Spectra base in the Arctic, but it's a trap. Zoltar and his soldiers imprison GeForce in an ice dungeon, where rising water threatens to drown them. As hope dwindles, Mark asks if his team still trusts him. Their unwavering support fuels a daring escape using the whirlwind pyramid technique. Meanwhile, the Scorpion ship continues its rampage, but the Phoenix arrives, unleashing a missile strike that cripples the enemy vessel. Zoltar flees just before the Scorpion explodes, but falling debris tears into the Phoenix, forcing GeForce into a crash landing. Victory comes at a cost, as 7 Zark 7 assesses the damage. He vows to build them a stronger Phoenix for the battles yet to come.
Punch-in fusion mass reserves.
Try anything!
Episode 31. Spectra Space Spider. President Kane declares a state of emergency when a massive, menacing space spider machine begins terrorizing Stellar City. Suspended high above, it blocks rain clouds, causing a devastating drought, and vaporizes any cargo planes attempting to deliver supplies with an energized web. The mastermind behind the space spider is Dr. Strecker, a former scientist at Center Neptune, fired for his controversial work on the Tronic web. Seeking revenge, he aligns with Zoltar, who orders him to stage a surrender to Chief Anderson, using the opportunity to capture photographs of GeForce in their civilian forms. When Chief Anderson receives Strecker's message, he believes he can reason with his former colleague. However, during their meeting, Strecker flicks a cigarette into the air, triggering a blinding flash of light. GeForce, hidden nearby in civilian clothes, is exposed. Before they can react, Strecker snaps photos of their true faces and escapes. Later, as the Phoenix leads a formation of cargo jets into Stellar City, the space spider attacks, weaving its deadly tronic web. The Phoenix becomes ensnared, its hull straining under the pressure. Acting fast, Keop deploys his Star Buggy's buzzsaw to slice through the web, freeing their ship. Seizing the moment, Tiny pilots the Phoenix straight into the space spider, allowing Mark, Jason, and Princess to infiltrate the machine. Inside, the team fights their way through, confronting Dr. Strecker in the control room. Amid the struggle, Princess loses her wrist activator, causing her to begin shifting back into civilian clothing. Mark and Jason leap in front of her, while Keop uses his bolo weapon to yank Strecker's hand away from his hidden eye patch camera. Princess scrambles into Keop's Star Buggy for cover, while Jason retrieves her broken activator. Mark tries to reason with Strecker, offering him a chance at rehabilitation, but the scientist, consumed by grief over losing his best friend, refuses. He hands Mark a single photograph, the one he gave to Zoltar, before pressing the space spider's self-destruct button. As the team escapes just in time, Mark finally looks at the supposed incriminating photo. It's only a shot of their legs. Strecker had destroyed the real negatives. Zoltar got nothing.
I warned you about GeForce. They're tricky. I want them captured. Yes, sir.
Episode 32. Beast with a Sweet Tooth. A worldwide sugar crisis is unfolding. Reserves are vanishing at an alarming rate, consumed by a monstrous cockroach-shaped behemoth. GeForce is determined to track the creature and uncover its connection to the elusive Spectra forces. But when they finally locate it, the monster turns its devastating vacuum weapon on the Phoenix, dragging the ship down from the sky. Thinking fast, Mark, Jason, and Tiny make a daring leap straight into the creature's gaping maw, while Princess and Keop wrest control of the Phoenix, barely managing to pull it out of danger. Inside the mechanical beast, the trio makes a shocking discovery, a fully operational sugar refinery churning away. Their investigation takes a perilous turn when they slip into a massive vat and find themselves moments away from being crushed. At the last second, Jason spots an escape hatch, and they scramble to safety. Meanwhile, Zoltar watches their every move. Outside, Princess and Cheop track the monster to its base, maneuvering the Phoenix beneath one of its wings to remain undetected. While they work on infiltrating the structure, Mark and Tiny fall into another trap, a towering glass cylinder linked to a spinning centrifuge. The ship's commander activates it, sending them into a dizzying whirl. But Princess and Cheop arrive just in time. They sabotage the beast's power supply, disabling the centrifuge and setting their teammates free. The team regroups, but just as they're about to escape, they're ambushed by Spectra soldiers. Acting fast, they execute the whirlwind pyramid, scattering their foes and breaking free. Jason and Cheop rush back to the Phoenix, while Tiny stays behind, intent on crippling the monster from within. Mark and Princess join him, with Princess expertly rewiring its power core before they make their escape. Moments later, the entire machine erupts in flames. The explosion triggers a massive avalanche, but GeForce transforms the Phoenix into its fiery form, blasting free from the collapsing base. Their mission is a success. With Spectra's sugar-stealing scheme destroyed, Earth's farmers use a new fast-grow fertilizer to replenish their crops, saving the world's sweet supply once more.
And we're gonna dance.
Episode 33. Raid on Riga. Spectra launches a devastating attack on planet Riga, a peaceful member of the Alliance of Peaceful Planets and a sister planet to Earth. The reason for the assault is clear. Colonel Cronus, Riga's defense commander, is close friends with Mark, and Spectra hopes to draw GeForce into a confrontation. As GeForce watches the destruction from Earth, they are filled with frustration. They can't intervene without a formal request from Riga, which has not arrived. After begging Chief Anderson for permission, Mark is denied once again. Determined to help his friend, Mark takes matters into his own hands and orders GeForce to launch without authorization. When GeForce arrives in Riga, they immediately encounter Spectra's new weapon. The Phoenix is quickly surrounded by energy bands, damaging the ship and knocking out the team. The Phoenix crashes into a nearby body of water flooding the hull. As the team struggles, Spectra's weapon fires a barrage of missiles, only to be intercepted and destroyed by Colonel Cronus and his fighter squadron. The Spectra commander assumes GeForce is finished, but unknown to him, they are saved thanks to Cronus. Back on Earth, Chief Anderson reprimands Mark and the team for disobeying orders, grounding them while the security board reviews the incident. If not for Cronus and his men, GeForce would have been lost. But, in the end, the security board decides to give the team another chance. GeForce returns to Riga to face the Spectra monster once again. Mark comes up with a plan. By hitting the shield directly, they can penetrate it. With Princess's yo-yo weapon, Mark creates a fusion cylinder and uses it in his sonic boomerang. After a tense few moments, they succeed in breaking through the shield. Mark climbs to the top of the Phoenix, throws his boomerang into the Spectra ship's hull, and the team races to safety. The boomerang detonates, destroying the Spectra monster. With the battle won, Cronus thanks GeForce, acknowledging their bravery and friendship. He bids them farewell, wishing them a safe journey back to Earth, and hopeful that they will meet again soon.
Get him, men!
Episode 34. Prisoners in Space. During a vacation, Tiny's van breaks down, leaving him stranded for hours. Just as hope begins to fade, a vehicle finally pulls up. Tiny opens the back doors to climb in, only to discover that it's a truck transporting prisoners to the notorious Barracuda Island prison. To his surprise, the inmates aren't who they seem to be. These are Spectra soldiers, part of a covert operation to relocate the entire prison population to another planet. Without his risk communicator, Tiny decides to play along, hoping to escape later. Back at Center Neptune, Chief Anderson briefs the GeForce team on the situation. Mark, Jason, and Princess quickly come up with a plan to deceive the prisoners. A Spectra sub is set to collect them, and GeForce needs to act fast. The Phoenix is modified with disguise parts to mimic a Spectra ship, and Mark, impersonating Zoltar, dons a Spectra commander's uniform. Mark lands the Phoenix at the prison while the rest of the team watches from a distance. As the prisoners board, Princess, Jason, and Keop set up fake backdrops inside the crumbling prison walls. The Phoenix takes off, only to land again inside the prison, its windows covered. Giant projection screens are positioned on either side, displaying passing terrain to fool the prisoners into thinking they're being transported off-planet. Meanwhile, the Spectra subcrew notices the new structures and decides to investigate. Mark, attempting to keep up the ruse, accidentally lets his real voice slip, and the leader of the prisoners realizes something's wrong. The leader knocks Mark unconscious just as Spectra soldiers burst into the control room, but Jason, Princess, and Keop swiftly overpower them. In the chaos, Tiny, unaware of the plan, makes a break for it and runs into the path of Jason and Keop. Jason, mistaking him for a threat, knocks Tiny out. When Tiny regains consciousness, the group rushes to the control room and defuses a bomb planted near Mark. The Spectra landing party, now trapped by gates that slam down around them, finds themselves back in the same prison. With the mission complete, GeForce returns home victorious. Episode 35, Capture of the Galaxy Code. President Kane of the Intergalactic Federation is tasked with transporting a critical component of the dynastral computer, a device crucial to the Federation's security. To avoid drawing attention, he chooses to travel on a seemingly ordinary jet, with the case containing the device locked securely in the armrest of his seat. Meanwhile, GeForce is waiting at a pre-arranged rendezvous point in mid-air to escort the jet to its destination. The journey starts at Magna Port, the Federation's newest base, where President Kane's stewardess is kidnapped by Spectra agents before she can board. Zoltar, one of Spectra's operatives, uses his shape-shifting abilities to assume her identity. With a spider-shaped pin on his collar, Zoltar boards the plane undetected. As the flight progresses, he discreetly activates the pin, sending a robotic spider to the cockpit. The spider knocks out the pilot and co-pilot with a venomous bite and takes control of the jet's flight systems. Meanwhile, GeForce begins to worry as the jet is over 15 minutes late to check-in. An emergency alert from Magnaport confirms their fears. The stewardess is an imposter. Using the brief signal Kane sent from his seat, GeForce locates the jet, but when they fly close to it, they are caught in a signal strong enough to control the Phoenix. They are drawn into a hidden Spectra base alongside the President's jet. Inside the base, Jason, Princess, and Keop take off in their own vehicles, while Mark rushes to board the jet. As he approaches, President Kane uses an emergency ejector button, which launches his seat into the air. Kane is accidentally thrown from the seat, but Keop quickly rescues him with a net deployed from his star buggy. However, the case falls from the seat, and a Spectra soldier snatches it. Mark reacts quickly, throwing his boomerang to slice open the soldier's fuel vehicle, causing a flammable trail. The ensuing explosion sets off a chain reaction, destroying the refueling vehicle and sending the case flying. Mark retrieves it, and GeForce makes their escape. With the President safe and the crucial device recovered, they return to the Phoenix, narrowly averting disaster.
Patch in the servo circuits. The giant space vulture is attacking Spectra headquarters.
Episode 36, Orion, Wonderdog of Space. Spectra has launched a devastating ecological attack on Earth using a superthermal dynamo, a device capable of altering global temperatures and plunging the planet into an intense, widespread drought. In response, the Federation sends Dr. Baxter, a brilliant solar scientist, to the Arctic to test a solar reflector designed to melt part of the polar ice cap and restore water to the world. While in the Arctic, Dr. Baxter discovers a hidden Spectra base. As soon as they spot him, Spectra helicopters surround him, jamming his communications. In a daring move, Dr. Baxter leaps from his helicopter and signals his loyal St. Bernard, Orion, to take his camera back to GeForce. Orion heroically jumps from the helicopter, landing in the snow below, but in his haste, he slips into a deep crevasse. Baxter fears the worst, but Orion miraculously survives. Back at Center Neptune, GeForce is briefed by Chief Anderson, who shows them the photos Orion has brought back. The team is sent on a mission to find Dr. Baxter and retrieve the solar reflector before Spectra can use it to flood Earth by melting the entire polar ice cap. Anderson insists that Orion accompany them, as his enhanced cerebonic power could be a valuable asset. Meanwhile, Zoltar, desperate to obtain Dr. Baxter's technology, pressures him to reveal the secrets of the solar reflector, but Baxter refuses to cooperate. Spectra's forces continue to track the team as they venture deeper into the Arctic. In a daring move, GeForce follows Orion to the Spectra base, but Zoltar is prepared. Using Baxter as bait, he traps GeForce and Orion in an invisible shield and floods the chamber, seemingly drowning the dog. The team watches helplessly. However, Orion is not dead. Washed ashore at a nearby lake, he regains consciousness and returns to the base. With incredible determination, he confronts a Spectra guard and forces him to release the shield, rescuing GeForce. As the battle escalates, Zoltar launches the Space Vulture towards Earth's major cities. He offers Baxter a deal: give up the secrets of the reflector, and Zoltar will stop the attack. Baxter refuses again, and just as the tension peaks, Orion bursts into the control room, rescuing Dr. Baxter. The two escape, but not without danger. As they flee, Orion is lost once again, falling into a ravine. Though the Space Vulture is destroyed in a final explosion, GeForce escapes, but the team is heartbroken, believing Orion is gone. However, back at Center Neptune, 7 Zark 7 picks up a signal near the lake. Upon closer inspection, he discovers fresh footprints. Orion has survived. A rescue mission is sent to bring him home. Episode 37, Secret Island. GeForce was enjoying some downtime in their ready room, discussing the mysterious disappearance of a ship in the Bermuda Triangle, when 7 Zark 7 suddenly alerted them to unusual activity in Sector 11. Mark and Princess were quickly dispatched to investigate. The ocean near Shipwreck Island had begun to churn ominously, and 2 massive machines erupted from the sea before disappearing into the sky. The pair set out in a speedboat to explore the island, sensing that something sinister was happening. Princess, uneasy about the island's foreboding atmosphere, was on edge as they spent the day waiting for a sign. As night fell, they got their answer. 2 enormous machines rose from the ocean's depths. The pair realized they were likely witnessing a Spectra weapons test. As they speculated about the situation, a water spout appeared and effortlessly destroyed both machines. Mark suspected it was part of Spectra's testing phase. The situation took a more dangerous turn when 3 lobster tanks approached. The duo quickly overpowered a tank driver, and Mark disguised himself in the uniform to infiltrate the base. He left Princess behind, hidden inside the tank, while he ventured into the heart of the enemy base. They were greeted by Dr. Killian, who led them to Dr. Wold, and a surprise guest, Zoltar. Killian explained that they were about to witness a demonstration of Spectra's new weapon. Back at Center Neptune, 7 Zark 7 received a call from Princess, revealing that Mark had infiltrated the base and discovered Spectra's operation at Shipwreck Island. She also informed 7 Zark 7 that GeForce was needed on the scene. In the base, Zoltar watched as Dr. Wold showcased the Whirly Knife, a new weapon capable of devastating destruction. When the demonstration went well, Zoltar ordered a fleet to be built. Mark, who had been trying to sabotage the weapon, was caught by Killian, but was saved by none other than Princess, who had followed him in secret. A fierce battle erupted as the Phoenix dodged the Whirly Knife's attacks. With Princess's help, Mark sabotaged the machine, triggering an explosion that disabled it. As the ship plummeted to the island below, the two made their way to the control room, where they found Wold and Zoltar. Mark grabbed Zoltar, ready to unmask him, only to find it was actually Killian in disguise. The real Zoltar had escaped in an escape craft, leaving chaos in his wake.
Emergency 9. Right. It's all over now.
Episode 38, The Jupiter Moon Menace. Spectra has formed a dangerous alliance with Commander Typhon, the exiled leader of the Scorpius planet. Typhon controls a powerful weapon that the spirit desires, and in return for Spectra's help in conquering Earth, Typhon promises to eliminate his enemies on Scorpius. This weapon is a terrifying scorpion robot, which Typhon controls from a submarine hidden deep beneath one of Spectra's oceans. He sends the robot to Jupiter's fifth moon, Callisto, where it begins scooping up rocks and boulders from the moon's surface. These chunks of rock are hurled at Earth at high speed, transforming into fiery meteorites upon entering Earth's atmosphere, causing massive destruction. Thankfully, Susan's warning from Pluto allows 7 Zark 7 to evacuate capital city just in time. The meteor storm strikes, but no lives are lost due to the early evacuation. GeForce is called in to investigate the origin of the storm, and when they arrive, another barrage of meteors is already being launched. They narrowly escape the oncoming destruction. Typhon, watching from Spectra, activates a signal that scrambles the electronics on GeForce's ship, leaving them helpless. Seizing the opportunity, Typhon orders the Scorpion robot to curl into a ball and launch itself towards Earth. GeForce fires missiles at it, but they're no match for the robot's advanced defenses. 7 Zark 7 informs GeForce that the Scorpion is headed towards a massive energy development center on Earth. Although the center has been evacuated, GeForce is instructed to focus on finding Commander Typhon. Using a magnetic tape probe, 7 Zark 7 manages to pinpoint Typhon's location on Spectra. The team heads to Spectra immediately to stop him. Upon arrival, GeForce locates Typhon's underwater ship. Mark, Jason, Princess, and Keop dive into the ocean and hitch a ride on a support vehicle, sneaking their way onto the ship's bridge. They destroy the control panel for the Scorpion, halting its assault on Earth. However, Typhon manages to escape, leaving GeForce trapped in his ship. Using her yo-yo bomb, Princess blows a hole in the bridge door, and the team makes their way back to the Phoenix. Once aboard, Princess notices that the meteor storm has reversed direction. A quick call to Chief Anderson confirms that with the Scorpion destroyed, the meteors are returning to Callisto. With their mission complete, GeForce heads back to Earth, victorious.
Okay, enough practice. Now let's get serious.
Episode 39, Seals of Citron. While GeForce is off on another critical mission in deep space, Spectra sees an opportunity to strike. They launch a surprise attack on Citron, a small island home to nothing but seals, and a powerful secret. Citron is the only place on Earth where a rare and super concentrated element, galactite hydronium, is mined and stored. This material is essential for powering Earth's spacecraft and maintaining its force fields. Without it, Earth would be helpless against Spectra's might. Taking full advantage of the moment, Spectra's forces descend on the island. With jellyfish-shaped submarines and a squadron of fighter planes, they begin their assault, aiming to capture Citron and its valuable resource. Zoltar joins the attack in his command ship while his forces hold the island. GeForce is urgently recalled to Earth, only to find that nearly all of the Federation's sub-chasing ships have been destroyed by Spectra. The last remaining ship is protected by a deflector screen, which reflects Spectra's missiles. But GeForce can't afford to abandon the ship, so they stay behind while Keop is sent on a daring mission to Citron to rescue a group of trapped miners. On Citron, Keop quickly forms a plan to get the miners to safety. He contacts Mark, who warns him that Zoltar plans to destroy the island. Keop enlists the help of the island's seals, who guide the miners safely underwater to escape. With the miners aboard the subchaser, Keop reunites with the Phoenix, carrying a small seal pup that has taken a liking to him. Spectra's forces, using laser search beams, track the subchaser and the Phoenix, but the Phoenix's deflector screen keeps them safe. However, Zoltar orders his submarines to attack, knowing the Phoenix can't use the screen underwater. The Phoenix is forced to deactivate its shield to engage the submarines. Zoltar hovers over the subchaser, demanding that GeForce surrender or face total destruction. With no other choice, GeForce exits the Phoenix, preparing for defeat. But as Zoltar taunts them, Keop and the seal pup leap into the water, distracting Spectra long enough for GeForce to grab their weapons and turn the tide of the battle. As Zoltar sees his forces crumble, he retreats into an escape craft, ordering his remaining ships to destroy the Spectra command ship. GeForce fights back, and with Tiny at the controls, they manage to fire the ship's destructive ray beams, wiping out Zoltar's remaining forces. With his fleet in ruins, Zoltar retreats, leaving GeForce victorious. They return the subchaser and its rescued miners to safety, even capturing a Spectra ship intact.
Just a little more and I can take 'em.
Episode 40, Ghost Ship of Planet Mir. On Center Neptune, 7 Zark 7 monitors the construction of a new underwater food and energy complex on planet Mir. The facility, located in the Perilous graveyard of ships, promises to be a non-polluting marvel. However, over the past week, 4 supply ships have mysteriously disappeared while servicing the complex. President Kane briefs Chief Anderson, revealing that the ship losses will delay the completion of the base by at least a month. Kane suspects that the deposed leader of Mir, Brock, may have allied with Zoltar to sabotage the project and regain control of the planet. Kane points out that 7 Zark 7 had detected a spaceship in the area, which further raises his suspicions. Meanwhile, in a submerged hideout within the graveyard of ships, Zoltar contacts Brock. He praises Brock for his efforts, but now insists the new complex must be destroyed. Zoltar's plan is to cripple the project and force Earth to hand over all technology related to the complex's construction to Spectra. On Sunset Island, GeForce enjoys a brief vacation. Keop struggles with sky jumping while Princess excels. Tiny lounges on the beach, complaining to Jason about the lack of action. As Mark prepares for a flight, Chief Anderson urgently contacts him with news of the complex's danger. The team is immediately called into action and heads to Planet Mir. Upon arrival, the team descends to the ocean floor, where they discover the complex has been severely damaged, but the Spectran submarine is nowhere to be found. Using their advanced infrascanners, they track the sub to its hidden location, and Brock, reporting to Zoltar, confirms that GeForce is on their tail. 7 Zark 7 warns the team that they may be walking into a trap. Mark orders Tiny to lift the Phoenix into the air, but they soon find themselves caught in a thick, artificially coloured fog. Suddenly, a ghost ship appears and opens fire. Tiny evades the attack as Mark orders the crew to target the fog machine with missiles. After a barrage of firepower, the fog clears, revealing a fleet of robotic ghost ships. Jason fires again, believing it's an easy victory, but the ships reassemble and unleash a new wave of attacks. Running low on missiles, the Phoenix dives underwater to escape just as a squadron of Mir fighter jets arrives and eliminates the remaining enemy forces. President Kane, impressed with GeForce's bravery, thanks them and offers them time to finish their vacation.
Now, back to your posts. Get ready for the assault by GeForce.
Episode 41, The Alien Bigfoot. While investigating reports of a Bigfoot sighting in Tibet, 2 leading scientists mysteriously disappear. 7 Zark 7 tells GeForce to stand by in case they need to deploy to the area. However, Keop, ever impatient, takes matters into his own hands and heads there, solo, eager to capture the creature. To keep track of him, 7 Zark 7 monitors Keop's progress. That night, in the Himalayas, the Bigfoot wreaks havoc on Keop's campsite. In a panic, Keop sends an emergency call to GeForce, and Mark quickly orders Tiny to head to his location. The following morning, 2 Spectra soldiers arrive at the campsite. Keop regains consciousness, sees them, and blurts out, "Spectra." The soldiers debate how to handle him now that he knows their identity. When GeForce arrives, they find Keop's tent and equipment, but no sign of him. Just then, they receive a signal from Keop, who turns out to be washing dishes in a Spectra base. The Spectrans have put him to work as labour. Later, while repairing Spectra snowmobiles, Keop is told about a new machine to fix. He discovers it's the Bigfoot monster. Much to his horror, the guards laugh at his fear, but Keop resolves to fix the creature. Good! He sends another signal to GeForce, alerting them to his location. GeForce rushes to Keop's position, but Spectra ambushes them, launching missiles from the canyon walls. Mark cleverly triggers an avalanche using the explosions, burying the Spectra base. Meanwhile, Keop pilots the Bigfoot into Zoltar's chambers, and GeForce bursts in with the Phoenix. Zoltar tries to flee, but is caught by Keop, who trips him with his bolos. Mark, Jason, and Princess emerge from the Phoenix, and Mark rips off Zoltar's mask, revealing long, flowing blonde hair. Suddenly, a blinding flash envelops them, and the spirit reveals himself to be the true leader of Spectra. With a sinister laugh, he mocks their weakness and promises to conquer Earth. The team loses consciousness. When they wake, Zoltar, the spirit, and the Bigfoot are gone. Was it all a dream? Mark is skeptical of the idea that Zoltar could be a woman, though he briefly saw her. Tiny dismisses the notion. As they leave the site, Zark-7 confirms the base is buried, but the mystery of Zoltar and the true leader of Spectra remains unsolved. Episode 42. Superspace Spies. 2 Federation scientists discovered that the snowpack at the peak of Mount Camila, one of Earth's major freshwater sources, has been contaminated with salt. This alarming discovery triggers a call for GeForce intervention, who quickly uncover wreckage from a crashed ship, pointing to Spectra's involvement in the pollution. The evidence ties Spectra to Barzok, the head of their espionage network and notorious slave trader. With reports of Spectra activity on Paradise Island, GeForce is sent there to investigate. Tiny and Keop go undercover at a hotel on the island, where Keop assumes the persona of Dr. Keopov, a renowned entomologist. When they ask for a guide, the hotel manager introduces them to a charming blonde woman. Tiny, immediately taken with her, is eager to follow her around. The guide takes them to the docks. But things quickly take a dark turn when Tiny finds himself trapped in a massive salt storage vault. The guide laughs menacingly. "That's one GeForce spy off our backs," before walking away toward a sailboat. Keop, unable to reach Tiny, secretly follows her onto the boat, discovering it's actually a Spectra submarine. Aboard the sub, Keop overhears a conversation between Barzok and the ship's captain. Barzok is plotting to get rid of Zoltar, aiming to take control of Spectra himself. As Keop listens, the guide sneaks up on him, capturing him at gunpoint. Meanwhile, Tiny is loaded onto the submarine with the salt shipment, and the sub heads to a hidden Spectra base on the island. GeForce tracks the sub to the base. Inside, the guide orders the captain to bring Keop to the room to lure GeForce into a trap, only for her true identity to be revealed. She's Zoltar in disguise. Zoltar, shocking everyone, confronts Barzok about his plan to betray him. Keop takes advantage of the distraction, knocking out the captain and escaping just as Tiny frees himself from the salt vault. The two reunite as the Phoenix breaks through the base's walls. As the Phoenix chases the Spectra sub, Zoltar fires missiles, but they miss, hitting the base instead. The sub, weighed down by the salt, can't reach full speed, and Jason fires a couple of cybernetic rockets, destroying it. Zoltar and his men manage to escape in an escape rocket, but the Spectra operation is shattered. Tiny, though disappointed in himself for falling for the guide's charm, takes solace in the fact that he played a major role in dismantling Spectra's spy network. Episode 43. Vacation on Venus. A massive buffalo-like creature known as the Great Tora triggers a volcanic eruption on Venus. During the chaos, one of its horns is struck by lightning and sheared off. Anderson examines the horn and discovers that its composition doesn't match anything in the solar system. In response, Chief Anderson sends GeForce to Venus, instructing them to pose as tourists while secretly investigating the creature. When the team lands, everyone except Tiny takes a car and a canoe and heads off. As they navigate through a canyon, a speeding jeep menaces them, knocking loose rocks and a large boulder that blocks their path. Forced off a cliff, the team faces certain doom until Jason fires his cable gun, anchoring it on both sides of the car and suspending them mid-air. Meanwhile, Tiny maneuvers the Phoenix into position for a rescue. The team continues their journey by canoe, embarking on a tense river rafting adventure. While paddling upriver, Princess and Mark spot a gunman on a cliff and, in a split-second decision, tip the canoe over, using it as a shield while they continue onward. They eventually reach a cave, but the sniper is soon captured by a Spectra helicopter. Under interrogation, he reveals his deep hatred for Spectra and tells Zoltar he is motivated by revenge against those who killed his people. Inside the cave, GeForce falls into a large chamber, becoming trapped in a net. As they struggle, Keop notices the jeep driver, tied up and unconscious, at the bottom of the chamber. With no time to waste, Mark calls for the whirlwind pyramid, and they tear through the net. However, when they try to escape through a door at the top of the chamber, only Keop manages to slip through before Zoltar locks the hatch. Trapped below, chains shoot out and capture the others. Meanwhile, on the Phoenix, Tiny is startled awake. He spots the Great Tora emerging from the mountains and narrowly avoids an attack as it breathes fire at him. In the cave, the sniper wakes up and activates a lever, unlocking the chamber doors. Keop uses mini-bombs to disable the control center, freeing the team. Together, they make their escape. Back on the Phoenix, Mark fires a time-fused missile at the Great Tora, which explodes in a fiery display. With Zoltar fleeing, GeForce watches as the creature is destroyed. The sniper, now free, reveals his history with Spectra. His family was killed by them, and he had sworn vengeance. Now, with the Great Tora gone, he can live in peace, grateful to GeForce for their help. He considers them his friends, and Venus itself is forever in their debt.
To disappoint you, Commander, but we already have a home for our friend Keop.
Episode 44. Keop does it all. Susan sends a message to 7 Zark 7, letting him know that Mark will visit him in the control room after work. 7 Zark 7 wonders what this could mean. Maybe a promotion, or perhaps he'll finally get to join GeForce on a mission. He can't help but feel anxious and curious about what the visit will bring. Meanwhile, GeForce is on a mission at the Intergalactic Federation headquarters. 7 Zark 7 keeps an eye on them, but his attention soon shifts when he spots an unfamiliar security guard sneaking into the building and placing a mysterious attach case into the main vault. Something feels off. Outside the building, Keop is admiring a sleek sports car when he notices the Spectra symbol on its steering wheel. Before he can warn anyone, the same fake security guard exits the Federation building and jumps into the car. Keop hides in the trunk, trying to contact GeForce, but his signal is blocked. Keop ends up at a Spectra base and overhears a conversation about the attach case. It contains a hydrogen bomb, which they plan to detonate remotely. Desperate to warn his team, Keop finally makes contact, but is quickly captured by Spectra soldiers. Zoltar reaches out to GeForce, demanding they surrender the plans for their new Viper directional finder in exchange for Keop's life. In the meantime, Keop, who has been taunted for taking his wrist communicator, manages to outsmart the guards by pretending to call GeForce on a spare communicator. The ruse works, and he escapes his cell. Chief Anderson orders GeForce to rescue Keop, but Spectra retaliates by sending a massive butterfly-like robot after the Phoenix. After a fierce battle, the Phoenix is damaged and crashes to the seafloor, but the team pulls off a clever move, dropping a decoy Viper directional finder to mislead their attackers. Back at the Spectra base, Keop manages to wire an explosive to the button that controls the bomb and sends GeForce the coordinates. Just as the Spectra commander is about to detonate the bomb, Keop's sabotage causes the base to explode instead. Though Mark scolds Keop for going rogue, the mission is a success, and they uncover another Spectra base. At Center Neptune, 7 Zark 7 worries he'll be shut down for his forgetfulness, especially after failing to contact GeForce. But when Mark arrives, 7 Zark 7's nerves are soothed, only to realise that he'd forgotten his birthday. Mark and Princess wish him a happy birthday, with Princess even kissing him on the forehead. Delighted, 7 Zark 7 giggles in joy. Episode 45. Demons of the Desert. Trouble has erupted in the Sheik of Abura on the Persian Gulf. Tabul, the young leader who recently studied at Center Neptune, has been overthrown by his uncle, Ajib, who has taken control of the country. Abura, one of the world's key oil producers, is now in turmoil, and the GeForce is called in to assess the situation. When the Phoenix arrives in Abura, it is immediately intercepted by Ajib's Air Force, which orders the ship to leave the airspace. But the GeForce quickly responds, transforming the Phoenix into the fiery Phoenix and evading the enemy, landing safely in the desert. Tabul reunites with his friends and explains the situation. Despite the obvious danger, he is ordered by his uncle to report to the palace. Everyone fears it might be a trap, but Tabul decides to go anyway. Mark follows him to the palace and intervenes just as Tabul is about to kill his uncle. However, Ajib's treachery becomes apparent when he activates a trapdoor, sending Mark and Tabul plummeting into an underground cell. There, Tabul discovers a skeleton, its hand clutching his uncle's ring. In that moment, the truth is revealed. Ajib is Zoltar in disguise. Mark manages to escape the cell to confront Zoltar. Meanwhile, Zoltar, inside the palace, gloats over his victory convinced that all the oil will now belong to Spectra. But as he celebrates, Mark's voice calls out from the shadows. Zoltar pulls a gun, but Mark disarms him with a sonic boomerang. In a fierce struggle, Mark leaps from a chandelier and sends Zoltar tumbling down the palace stairs. However, Zoltar recovers, fleeing to his private airship and escaping into the skies. While this is happening, a Spectra machine bombs a village in a borough. Back aboard the Phoenix, Mark and the team track its path of destruction. Tiny devises a plan to stop the machine. Mark contacts Tabul, and the two teams join forces. The Phoenix flies ahead to lure the machine into position above a borough's oil refineries. Tabul's men fire at the explosives on the machine, triggering a massive explosion that destroys the Spectra ship. To escape unscathed, they transform into the fiery Phoenix and speed away. Though the mission is successful, Abara has suffered greatly. 7-Zark-7 reports that the destroyed refinery will soon be replaced by a new one, the largest and most efficient on Earth.
Like a seven-headed dragon.
Once more.
Episode 46, The Space Serpent. A serpent-like robot, which 7-Zark-7 believes is from Spectra, attacks an oil refinery and tanker, draining their crude oil before causing massive destruction and burrowing underground to escape. Chief Anderson contacts Mark with urgent news. Dr. Harlan, an old friend, wants to meet him in the city. When they meet, Dr. Harlan warns of strange seismic disturbances along unfamiliar fault lines. As if on cue, an earthquake strikes. As they try to flee, the ground opens beneath them, and Mark barely manages to grab Dr. Harlan's arm. But in the chaos, he loses his grip, and Dr. Harlan is swallowed by the chasm. Mark barely escapes, his heart heavy with the loss. Later, at Dr. Harlan's grave, Mark is confronted by the doctor's daughter, Debbie. She blames him for her father's death, her anger palpable, but as the confrontation escalates, she collapses in his arms, tearfully mourning the father she lost. Back at Center Neptune, 7-Zark-7 tracks the Serpent's movements, uncovering its next target, a water and power complex. Mark joins the Phoenix team, only to find Debbie among them, her sorrow still fresh. Mark, determined to stop the creature responsible for Dr. Harlan's death, assures Debbie that they'll put an end to its reign of terror. Meanwhile, Jason pushes to launch a TBX nuclear missile, but the team struggles to prevent him. Too close to the city, the missile could cause even more devastation. Mark suggests luring the Serpent away to destroy it safely. When they finally have the opportunity, Mark offers Debbie the chance to destroy the creature, but she hesitates. Mark praises her restraint, knowing her father would have wanted her to make this choice. In the end, Jason fires the missile, and the Serpent is obliterated. Mark comforts Debbie, telling her her father would be proud of her. As GeForce and Chief Anderson pay their respects at the grave, Mark steps down as commander of the team, burdened by his personal feelings. Anderson, however, reassures him and reassigns Mark as the team leader, confident in his ability to continue guiding them.
Second, and I'll have it. Everyone down!
Episode 47, Rockets Out of Control. 7-Zark-7 is granted a rare break from his duties to witness a historic space mission. Two astronauts are heading to subplanet Zora to assess it as a potential way station for future shuttle programs. The Lorelei 3 rocket launches without incident, its ascent smoothly monitored from the observation deck by GeForce. Elsewhere on the site, Secretary Claiborne offers Chief Anderson a lift back to his security base, and the two share a toast on their journey. Meanwhile, 7-Zark-7 grows suspicious of Claiborne's assistant and decides to investigate. He sneaks into the office just in time to witness a shocking scene. As the assistant touches a strange stain on the curtain, Secretary Claiborne collapses, gravely injured. The man who had been with Chief Anderson on the helicopter is revealed to be an imposter, none other than Zoltar in disguise. 7-Zark-7 quickly alerts GeForce of the emergency, informing them that the Lorelei 3 has deviated from its planned course after the first stage of separation. With only an hour before it re-enters Earth's atmosphere as a fireball, the team's immediate priority becomes locating Chief Anderson, who is the only one who can help control the rocket's trajectory. The GeForce team tracks a homing signal sent from Chief Anderson's wristwatch, which leads them to Coast Harbor, near an atomic energy center, precisely where the rocket is predicted to crash. Mark suspects this could be a trap set by Zoltar, but the team rushes in, undeterred. Tiny lands the Phoenix, but Zoltar and his men are waiting. A tense struggle ensues, and despite Zoltar abandoning his crew, GeForce manages to rescue Chief Anderson and escape. However, Anderson reveals that the rocket's correction system is destroyed, making it impossible to manually regain control. Their only hope lies in firing a missile at the rocket, hoping the astronauts can eject in time. With no other option, the team takes the risk, and it works. The astronauts eject safely, and the atomic energy center is spared, a near catastrophe averted.
Bullseye, baby!
Episode 48, The Space Mummy. 7 Zark 7 recently discovered an Earth-like planet within our solar system, which was soon named Zarkadia in his honor. However, the planet has been plagued by a series of mysterious airplane crashes, prompting 7 Zark 7 to send Chief Anderson and GeForce to investigate. Mark visits an airport in Zarkadia, where he meets Buddy, a young boy waiting for his father's return, and his uncle, Dr. Sweet, reveals that Buddy's father, Captain Sweet, was the pilot of one of the planes that crashed. Despite the tragedy, Buddy refuses to believe his father is missing and continues to visit the airport every day, hoping for his return. Later, Mark takes to the skies to survey the crash sites. As he nears the location of the first radio emergency, a dark cloud surrounds him. He narrowly avoids being captured by a giant hand, part of the mysterious space mummy, which disappears once Mark escapes the cloud. Chief Anderson later informs Mark that traces of plutonium X, a dangerously radioactive substance, were found on his plane. Since only planet Spectra uses plutonium X, Anderson deduces that the Spectrans are using it in the propulsion system for the space mummy. Thankfully, Dr. Sweet has invented a neutralizer called anti-pluton. When Mark returns to the airport, a surprising sight awaits. Captain Sweet walks off a plane, alive and well. He explains he was rescued by fishermen after his plane went down and had to wait 2 days before contacting anyone. However, Dr. Sweet eyes a ring on his finger with suspicion. That night, Mark sees a flashlight moving in Dr. Sweet's house. Inside, Captain Sweet, now revealed as Zoltar tries to break into Dr. Sweet's safe. Zoltar threatens Buddy's life to force Dr. Sweet to give him the anti-pluton formula. After a scuffle with Mark, Zoltar escapes, and Dr. Sweet reveals the formula is hidden in a button Buddy's father had given him. As the mummy begins attacking the airport, Buddy runs into danger. Mark, with the anti-pluton, realizes the mummy's weak point. He makes a daring move to stop the machine, but Buddy's safety is at risk. Mark succeeds, freezing the mummy and forcing Zoltar to flee. Buddy, still in denial about his father's true identity, lashes out at Mark. In a moment of empathy, Mark doesn't force the truth on Buddy, but lets him focus his anger elsewhere, feeling sorry for the boy who had lost so much. Episode 49, The Sea Dragon. 7 Zark 7 sat quietly at Center Neptune when suddenly his communicator beeped urgently. It was Susan, reporting a distress signal from Aquatica, the primary repair hub for the Intergalactic Defense Force. The news was dire. Aquatica was under attack. At the Intergalactic Federation headquarters, President Kane addressed the delegates, his voice heavy with concern. Spectra has inflicted severe damage on Aquatica, he announced. It's been completely compromised. The planet is lost. Anderson, the Federation's chief strategist, confirmed the grim news. GeForce was immediately dispatched to investigate. As the team arrived, Jason quickly identified Spectra's fearsome sea dragon on the Phoenix's radar. The menacing vessel loomed large in their path. On board the sea dragon, Zoltar smirked, confident that the Phoenix was no match for his ship. Jason wasted no time, firing a barrage of TBX missiles, but they had no effect. Mark gave the command to switch to fiery Phoenix mode, and the Phoenix ignited with intense power. But the Sea Dragon retaliated, unleashing a burst of fiery breath from its mouth that engulfed the Phoenix in a deadly inferno. The ship was heavily damaged, forcing it to retreat from fiery Phoenix mode. The team's only option was to crash land into the ocean below, where the Phoenix began to take on water. Back at the command center, Seven Zark 7 and Chief Anderson had a plan. The Phoenix would be rebuilt. This would be their final shot at defeating Spectra. With the ship now repaired, Anderson revealed a secret weapon, the Frigid Midget, a device capable of creating a freezing vacuum in a 500-yard radius. The Phoenix made its second attempt at Aquatica, this time undetected. Mark, cleverly hiding among a school of Spectra's spy fish, infiltrated the Sea Dragon. He navigated through the enemy ship, outwitting the guards, until he planted the freeze weapon and called the Phoenix for extraction. As the Sea Dragon ascended, the Phoenix engaged its supercooled fiery Phoenix mode, activating the Frigid Midget. The Sea Dragon's engines froze, and a squad of Spectrans was immobilized. The dragon began to plummet into the ocean. Mark was cornered by the freezing effect, but just as it seemed like all was lost, a massive crack tore through the Sea Dragon, and Mark leapt to safety. The Sea Dragon exploded in a spectacular display. Keop anxiously feared for Mark's life, but the young hero's voice crackled over the radio. He was alive, and the Phoenix swooped in to pick him up, victorious. Episode 50, Perilous Pleasure Cruise. At Center Neptune, 7 Zark 7 monitors a troubling launch from planet Spectra, tracking a missile aimed at Earth's North Pacific. Meanwhile, a vacationing Professor Wilde and his granddaughter Angie, aboard the cruise ship Starfire, find themselves in grave danger. Without warning, the skies darken and an iceberg bursts from the sea, releasing a massive, walrus-shaped robot that freezes the ship with a blast of supercooled breath. GeForce is immediately briefed by Chief Anderson about the ship's mysterious disappearance and the importance of Professor Wilde, whose groundbreaking research on cellular renewal and organ regrowth makes him a prime target for Spectra. Mark, ever the skeptic, is suspicious of the iceberg imagery Chief Anderson is showing them, so GeForce heads to the North Pacific to investigate further. At a hidden Spectra base, the Starfire is trapped in a massive docking bay, and all its passengers have been moved. Professor Wilde pleads with Zoltar to spare Angie, but Spectra's leader plans to test Wilde's cellular formula on her. Just as Zoltar begins his dark experiment, Mark and Princess arrive to stop him. However, Zoltar detonates a bomb, trapping them in the process. In a heroic act, Professor Wilde sacrifices himself to save them, using the bomb's explosion to create an escape route for Mark, Princess, and Angie. The trio fights their way back to the Starfire, where the remaining crew and passengers are safely restored. Princess detonates one of her yo-yo bombs, clearing a path to freedom. Zoltar isn't finished though. He launches the walrus robot after them, and after a fierce battle, GeForce is forced to transmute into the fiery Phoenix to destroy it. Zoltar escapes in a submarine, having obtained Wilde's formula. At Center Neptune, 7 Zark 7 is devastated that Zoltar succeeded, but one Rover 1 offers a glimmer of hope. The formula Zoltar obtained was faulty, a tragic reminder of the risks that claimed Angie's mother and crippled Wilde. Zoltar may think he's gained immortality, but the formula will be his undoing. Episode 51, GeForce in the Future. Mark accompanies Dr. Gorky on a flight to survey a potential site in the Arctic for the groundbreaking Future World project. Though Dr. Gorky is suspicious of Mark's true intentions, thinking he's there to keep an eye on him, Mark reassures him that his only job is to get him safely to the site. However, their flight takes a sudden turn when the plane loses control. Mark quickly notices that a holding pin has come loose from the throttle. With quick thinking, he replaces it with a paperclip, allowing the pilots to regain control and make a safe landing. But as they step off the plane, disaster strikes. An earthquake hits, and the ground opens up beneath them. The plane and its occupants are swallowed by a chasm that closes over them. When Mark regains consciousness, he finds himself in a strange room with Dr. Gorky. The doctor is immediately struck by the futuristic city around them, recognizing it as the future world he'd envisioned. Mark, ever the realist, speculates they must have somehow travelled through a time warp As they explore the city, they are confronted by a group of angry citizens. Just as the mob closes in, a glass door slides down, cutting them off. A figure emerges, introducing himself as Coda, a representative of Future World. Coda explains the grim history of this future. 50 years ago, Earth was ravaged by the Great Spectra invasion. All the great cities were destroyed, including Center Neptune, and most of Mark's companions perished. As they tour the ruins of the old city, Mark is shown a headstone confirming this loss. Later, Coda reveals a dying Chief Anderson on a video monitor and tells Mark that the world is now controlled by Spectra. He introduces a fully grown Keop, who surprises Mark by no longer stammering. Keop explains he was freed from his captors by pledging allegiance to Spectra. The two exchange accusations of betrayal, with Mark rejecting Keop's loyalty to the invaders. Dr. Gorky, trying to keep the peace, asks Coda what they can do. Coda demands Gorky's secret energy formula, which the Doctor claims is hidden in the wreckage of their plane. When they return to the crash site, Mark finds the paperclip, still uncorroded, jammed in the throttle. It dawns on him that everything, this entire situation, was orchestrated to steal Gorky's formula. At that moment, Zoltar and his Spectra forces reveal themselves. But just as the situation seems hopeless, the rest of GeForce arrives, responding to Mark's distress call. They engage the Spectra soldiers, forcing them to retreat, though Zoltar escapes in an aircraft, disappearing into a massive projection screen. Mark, noticing a ticking clock, hurries everyone to safety aboard the Phoenix. As they watch the base go up in flames, Dr. Gorky reveals that the formula is hidden within his mind, encoded on 3 strips of microfilm no bigger than a strand of hair. He sends the formula down into the earth with a burrowing machine, explaining that humanity isn't ready for its power. Episode 52, The Awesome Armadillo. Jason was excited to test out his new freeze ray, a cutting-edge weapon invented by 7 Zark 7 and installed in his space mobile. He was eager to have it added to the Phoenix, but Mark disagreed. As leader of GeForce, Mark insisted that it was his decision, sparking a heated argument. Jason, frustrated with Mark's refusal, fumed that he could do better without the leadership. Mark, in turn, stormed out of the hangar, suggesting that maybe he should step down from the team entirely. On Spectra, things were taking a darker turn. The Great Spirit had replaced Zoltar with Colonel 2, a new, confident leader who believed Operation Windfire, his plan to invade Earth, would be a resounding success. As Colonel 2 departed for Earth in an armadillo monster robot, Zoltar stayed behind, fuming and wishing him nothing but failure. Back on Earth, 7 Zark 7 confirmed that the armadillo was heading straight for Bandos Island. It landed atop a volcano, causing widespread destruction in the nearby towns. Princess, seeing Mark's frustration, convinced him to return to GeForce. The team was sent to gather reconnaissance, but Jason was eager to take action, ready to blast the monster off the volcano. Mark, however, held him back, causing their feud to flare up once again. Jason's temper rose, but ultimately he reluctantly followed Mark's lead, and they returned to Center Neptune to review their findings. At Center Neptune, Jason vented his frustration to Chief Anderson about Mark's indecision. But when Colonel 2 rampaged again, Jason could no longer hold back. He stormed into the dark room where Mark was studying the photographs, demanding answers. Mark remained silent, refusing to engage. Tiny tried to intervene, but even he was losing patience. Finally, Mark broke his silence, revealing that the monster's weak point was in the vents on its nose. With this new intel, Chief Anderson provided Mark with a special device to target the armadillo. GeForce was once again deployed to Bandos Island. This time, Jason was determined to back up his earlier words. From the space mobile, he fired the shot with perfect precision, hitting the weak spot. Initially, nothing seemed to happen, but then internal fires erupted and explosions ravaged the armadillo. Colonel 2 and his men evacuated, leaving the robot to fight on automatic control. In a final act of defense, the armadillo grabbed the Phoenix and attempted to dive toward the seafloor. GeForce responded quickly, launching mini torpedoes into the robot's underside. The attack was enough to free them, and the Phoenix broke away, heading back to safety at Center Neptune. Episode 53, Tentacles from Space. Chief Anderson calls GeForce into action, informing them of a significant development in the Professor Stark case. Security has been keeping tabs on Stark, and recently he met with a Spectra special agent named Hannah. During their meeting, Stark handed her a copy of a new protein formula he had developed. Shortly after, Hannah vanished without a trace, and security was able to apprehend Stark. Meanwhile, on Spectra, the Spirit is enraged. Hannah had obtained the formula but refused to hand it over. Zoltar, seething with frustration, devises a new plan to send an agent named Korag from one of Spectra's subjugated planets to track down and eliminate Stark. The Spirit believes Korag's power is so formidable that even GeForce won't stand a chance against him. Back on Earth, Mark and Princess meet with one of Stark's colleagues, Dr. Hobson, who reveals he suspects that the formula Stark handed Hannah is a fake. However, Stark, now in high security isolation, refuses to cooperate and clear up the mystery. Meanwhile, 7-Zark-7 alerts Jason, Tiny, and Keop to unusual activity near the high security prison where Stark is being held. As they investigate, a Hydra-headed Spectra machine commanded by Korag appears. The machine swiftly captures the Phoenix, but just as all hope seems lost, Mark and Princess arrive to rescue the ship. Korag, realizing he has no choice but to press on with his mission, enters the prison to find Stark. In a dramatic confrontation, GeForce reaches Stark's cell, only to find him lying unconscious with Korag standing over him. A tense fight ensues, with Korag effortlessly overpowering GeForce. However, when Korag attempts to kill Jason, his unfamiliarity with Jason's gun backfires, triggering a projectile that knocks Korag out cold. Back at Center Neptune, the team can finally relax. 7-Zark-7 contacts them with good news. Korag is in custody, Hannah has been captured, and Professor Stark will testify against her. Episode 54, Ace from Outer Space. Susan contacts 7-Zark-7 to alert him about a suspicious craft resembling an old-fashioned biplane heading toward Earth from the hostile planet Urgos. 7-Zark-7 assumes it's on its way to the Earth Intergalactic Air Show, but Susan insists he stays vigilant. Something doesn't seem quite right. At the air show, Mark volunteers to test the new Space Patrol Scout XF-97. As he's flying the ship through its paces, he's unexpectedly buzzed by Captain Doom in his biplane. Using a laser whip, Doom disables the XF-97, forcing Mark to eject into the ocean below. Doom continues his rampage, destroying the other planes in the air show. Despite a missile strike from GeForce, Doom is undeterred. He targets the Phoenix next, severing its rudder with his whip before transforming his plane into a rocket and fleeing into space. Back at GeForce, analysis of the damaged Phoenix reveals that the metal used by Doom's ship is a nearly indestructible substance from an asteroid captured by Urgos. GeForce heads to Urgos, where they're immediately attacked by underground defenses. To fool the enemy, Mark and the team stage a crash landing. Disembarking from the Phoenix, Mark, Princess, Jason, and Keop make their way into the enemy base. The group splits up, but it doesn't take long before Doom's men surround Jason and Keop, disarming them. Meanwhile, Princess and Mark are ambushed by massive praying mantis-shaped tanks, but they take them down with a daring two-person whirlwind pyramid maneuver. As they climb a ladder to escape, Captain Doom appears above them, whip in hand. He strikes at the ladder, sending Mark and Princess hanging by a single rung. Just as Doom is about to deliver the final blow, Princess uses her yo-yo to snare a nearby handrail, flipping herself and Mark to safety. Jason and Keop break free from Doom's men and sabotage the base's generator, triggering a warning alarm that momentarily distracts Doom. In the chaos, Mark seizes the opportunity to knock the whip from Doom's grasp. The team regroups, and with Tiny's help, they escape through the hatch in the Phoenix. Mark uses Doom's whip to secure himself and Princess inside the ship as lava fills the base. As they flee, Doom watches from his biplane, vowing that Urgos will one day conquer all. Back on Earth, Mark tosses the laser whip into the ocean, putting an end to their current battle.
This is your enemy, understand? You must shoot him.
Jim, look at me, I'm Mark.
Episode 55, Giant Space Bat. 7-Zark-7's latest physical tests have gone horribly wrong, leaving him needing repairs and even some system replacements. Everything seems to be malfunctioning, including his memory and basic functions, making it impossible for him to check on Spectra's latest weapon. Meanwhile, the giant space bat is undergoing trials for its devastating force ray. Lotak, the ship's commander, reports to Zoltar that the test successfully took down a manned spacecraft. Worried that the attack could attract GeForce's attention, Zoltar orders Lotak to strike Earth's metropolitan city as a show of power. Mark is out searching for the wreckage of the downed spacecraft when he finds some debris in a mountain range. As he sifts through it, he discovers a weapon unlike anything he's seen before. Just as he's about to leave, he hears a faint gasp. Turning around, he finds an unconscious young man named Jim. Back at Center Neptune, GeForce and Chief Anderson try to help Jim, but he's dazed and unresponsive, clearly struggling with something traumatic. After some effort, Jim finally opens up when he sees Keop playing with his bolo weapon. He asks to try it and demonstrates surprising skill, bringing down a pigeon with a clean throw. But soon after, a conversation with Princess triggers painful memories of being shot down by the Force Ray. GeForce quickly finds themselves battling the space bat, but they're no match for its powerful weapon. The Phoenix is severely damaged, and in their desperate attempt to escape, they're caught by the Force Ray. They survive the crash, and 7 Zark 7 begins working on a new Phoenix. While waiting for the new ship, Mark and Jim are attacked by a Spectra helicopter, but manage to escape by jumping into a body of water. Afterward, Jim's memory returns. He recalls being hypnotized aboard the space bat and, realizing he could help, agrees to join GeForce in taking it down. Together, they board the space bat, but Jim is forced to confront a post-hypnotic command to kill GeForce. With Mark's help, Jim overcomes it and reveals a bomb he planted aboard the ship. The two narrowly escape before the space bat explodes, and they're rescued by the Phoenix, heading home to Center Neptune.
Something. Tiny, take her up for a steep dive.
Episode 56. The Great Brain Robbery. Spectra launches a daring attack on Earth's Artificial Intelligence Center, stealing an artificial brain before vanishing into the unknown. GeForce quickly pursues, but their mission takes a dangerous turn when they encounter a terrifying creature that nearly destroys them. With quick thinking, they manage to drive it off using the Whirlwind Pyramid, and Mark even manages to sever one of its arms before it retreats. They bring the arm back to Center Neptune for analysis, only to learn that it's made of brain cells, likely from a sinister artificial brain developed to study the criminal mind, specifically Zoltar's. Chief Anderson explains that this evil brain was intended to help understand the criminal genius of Spectra, but now that it's in Spectra's hands, it's being used for far more sinister purposes. The next day, Anderson takes GeForce to the Space Dome arena to meet a new ally, the giant Fembot, a robot designed to counteract the creature. However, before they can even inspect it, the creature crashes through the roof, takes control of the Fembot, and transforms it into a monstrous weapon. It escapes with plans to create an army of these creatures to conquer Earth and the galaxy. Mark orders the team to stop the beast while he sneaks into Spectra's base to destroy it. As GeForce gives chase in the Phoenix, the creature grabs hold of their ship, sending them spiraling into danger. Meanwhile, Commander Muto at Spectra's base sends power to the creature in an attempt to crush the Phoenix. Mark, having learned of Spectra's cloning plans, sets out to destroy their lab. Tiny maneuvers the Phoenix out of the creature's grasp and into a steep dive, but they're soon caught in the creature's magnetic force shield. Mark manages to sabotage the lab and escape. Desperate, Zoltar orders the base's doomsday button to be pressed. Just in time, the Phoenix escapes the creature's grasp, and Mark rejoins the team. He orders the fiery Phoenix transformation. The intense heat melts the creature into a puddle, and Muto's doomsday button destroys the base, taking him with it. Mission accomplished, Chief Anderson informs the team that all future artificial brains will be developed solely for peaceful purposes.
I've set it to blow up.
No, I have to get in there.
Episode 57. Giant Dealer Monster. 7 Zark 7 issues. A triple red alert for a significant change. Xeno, the only survivor from the planet Xenos, has escaped from the Institute for the Study of Ancient Civilizations on Earth. Discovered years earlier by an early space patrol, Xeno had been brought to Earth, kept in isolation, and refused to speak to anyone. Now free, he's returning home, but not everyone is happy about it. Zoltar, eager to capture Xeno for a powerful secret that could help him conquer Earth, and eventually the universe, moves quickly. Meanwhile, GeForce is deployed to the constellation Cygnus, where planet Xenos lies. For safety, Mark is assigned to work alone on the planet's surface while the rest of the team remains in orbit. While tinkering with an aircraft on the surface, Mark is confronted by Xeno, who holds him at gunpoint and demands he fly the plane. As they take off, the plane malfunctions. Mark struggles to regain control, but Xeno is convinced Mark is trying to deceive him. The plane develops an oil pressure issue, and Mark insists that the only way to survive is for Xeno to bail out and parachute to safety. After seeing Mark's selflessness, Xeno trusts him and leaps out. Mark lands the plane safely, but in the process, his wrist communicator breaks. As he searches for Xeno, Spectra ships suddenly swoop in, flying past him and descending into a nearby canyon. 7 Zark 7 contacts the team, alerting them that contact with Mark has been lost. On Xenos, the Spectra fleet merges into a massive Zilla monster robot searching for Xeno. Mark finds Xeno in an old town. Just as the Spectra forces do, they capture both men, imprisoning them in a deep well until Xeno decides to speak. Xeno reveals that he's from another dimension and that the well's water is draining his life force. Mark struggles free, activates his GeForce suit, and climbs out. A showdown occurs inside a saloon, which is destroyed in the process. Xeno explains he has no way to return home. Zilla Monster reaches the top of the canyon. Its commander steps out, determined to claim Xeno's secret. In a final act of defiance, Xeno tackles the Spectra commander, and they both tumble over the cliff, along with the Zilla Monster. The explosion that follows marks the end of Xeno's journey. Episode 58, The Duplicate King. GeForce has arrived in Beldania to protect the kingdom's treasures and its elderly king Sarnin, who credits his longevity to a strict vegetarian diet. Their mission is simple: safeguard the royal jewels from Spectra's grasp. But things take a turn when Mark notices several officials in the cheering crowd who look suspiciously like Spectrans. After landing the Phoenix in Beldania's harbour to wait for the crowds to disperse, GeForce is led into the king's residence, only to encounter a series of strange and dangerous events. Chandeliers nearly crash down, statues teeter, and hidden machine guns pop out from the walls, nearly taking them out. Mark's suspicions grow as they press on, finally reaching King Sarnin, only to discover that the monarch is an imposter, an agent named Ganarp in disguise. The situation worsens when GeForce is knocked unconscious by gas in a trap, and Zoltar orders their elimination. Just as they're surrounded by Spectra agents, GeForce's cerebonic powers kick in, and they manage to escape, using explosives to blast a hole in the room and flee. Desperate to get rid of GeForce, Ganarp activates a radiotronic disorientation device, sending high-pitched audio waves across the kingdom. While the team is only slightly affected by the sound, the waves brainwash the citizens into attacking GeForce on sight. Unable to fight back against innocent civilians, the team seeks refuge underground, where a young boy named Joe leads them to safety. When they surface near the palace, GeForce confronts Ganarp once more. After destroying his control center, they learn that the building is rigged to explode. In a narrow escape, the team manages to avoid the blast and save the real King Sarnin. With the mission complete, GeForce returns to Center Neptune, where King Sarnin rewards them with medals crafted from his royal jewels. Episode 59, Curse of the Cuttlefish, Part 1. GeForce is on a top-secret mission to strike Spectra before Zoltar can launch another devastating raid on Earth. But the Spirit has already set its sights on a new target, Arcturus, Earth's sister planet. The Spirit has discovered the Conway tapes, which contain Earth and the Federation's defense codes, hidden on Arcturus. Zoltar, eager to claim them, decides to personally oversee the raid. In a bold move, Zoltar interrupts Arcturus's airwaves, warning the planet about the upcoming attack. Uncertain of his true intentions, GeForce heads there to investigate, suspecting he might be after the Conway tapes before they can arrive. However, a giant cuttlefish robot strikes, obliterating the Arcturian Air Force. When the Phoenix arrives, GeForce pursues the robot, which leads them underwater and releases an ink-filled smokescreen to escape. Lost in the murky depths, the Phoenix crashes into a reef, leaving the team stranded. Mark and the others decide to investigate on foot. Princess and Keop, keen to explore, head off together. To stay undercover, Mark orders them to remove their wrist bracelets. Meanwhile, Agent S9, the galaxy's most brilliant spy, has been sent by Zoltar to infiltrate the radical anti-Arcturian underground. She meets with the rebels, takes command, and sets her plan into motion. Her first move is to stage a fake mugging, drawing GeForce out into the open. When they find S9 under attack, Princess rescues her, and the spy invites them to her home as thanks. However, Princess and Keop begin to suspect something's amiss. After S9 offers them hot chocolate, Keop suddenly passes out, and Princess realizes he's been drugged. Pretending to drink the chocolate herself, she feigns unconsciousness, only to spring into action when Arcturian spies break in. Before they can escape, S9 pulls a gun, revealing she knows their true identities. She locks them in a room, and Zoltar begins the final phase of his plan, launching the cuttlefish machine to drill deep beneath Arcturus.
Something's wrong! Blast out of here!
Episode 60, Curse of the Cuttlefish, Part 2. On the remote planet of Arcturus, the cuttlefish, a massive Spectra war machine, is causing chaos, tearing apart the city with its destructive power. Zoltar, determined to find the elusive Conway tapes, has already obliterated much of the planet's robot defenses, and now turns his sights on the power centers of Arcturus. He demands the leaders surrender the tapes or face total annihilation. Meanwhile, Princess and Keop are being held captive in a looming castle, their lives hanging in the balance as Agent S9 is dispatched to execute them. Back on the Phoenix, Tiny, Jason, and Mark watch helplessly as the cuttlefish ravages the city. However, they hesitate to act, fearing their friends are being held aboard the monster machine. Desperate to save them, GeForce sends a deceptive video to Zoltar, suggesting that Princess and Keop are aboard the Phoenix. Agent S9 intercepts the transmission, delaying the execution. 7's Arc 7 then provides a lead on their location, and the team rushes to the castle, only to find that Princess and Keop have already been moved. 7's Arc 7 believes they've been transferred to the cuttlefish. Mark and Jason set off on a dangerous mission to infiltrate the cuttlefish and rescue their friends. As time runs out, Zoltar locates the Conway tapes in the Federation building and has the entire structure ripped from the planet by the cuttlefish. Mark and Jason manage to break into the ship and free Princess and Keop, though not without a challenge. Before they leave, Princess sets an explosive charge on the ship's control panel. Back on the Phoenix, Mark confronts Zoltar, claiming the Conway tapes are safe at Center Neptune. Zoltar, skeptical, attempts to break into one of the containers, but a chemical reaction damages the cuttlefish's tentacle. As the battle intensifies, the cuttlefish dives into the sea, and GeForce pursues. In a dramatic escape, the Phoenix is thrown into an underwater rock formation, but narrowly dodges a massive missile. Ultimately, the Federation building's explosive cylinders destroy the cuttlefish, sending it to its watery grave. Zoltar retreats in failure, but GeForce's victory ensures Arcturus is free, for now. However, 7's Arc 7 senses that Agent S9 is far from finished.
We meet again, Zoltar. What sort of deviltry are you up to now?
Episode 61, Peril in the Pyramids. On Earth, one of the oldest Egyptian temples dedicated to Amun-Ra mysteriously disappears. 7's Arc 7 locates it on Alpha 3, a desert planet at the galaxy's edge. This planet, a remote penal colony, is where Earth sends criminals and their families to start over. Chief Anderson dispatches GeForce to investigate what's happening. Upon arriving in Alpha 3's capital city, Osiris, GeForce splits up. Keop, intrigued by a booth selling corn on the cob, is greeted by a woman named Dolly, who mistakes him for her missing son, Ali. Touched by her warmth, Keop plays along, and they head to her home. As they pass by the Amun-Ra temple, Dolly warns him not to investigate it, as it's said to bring misfortune to anyone who dares enter. That night, Unable to resist, Chaop sneaks back to the temple. He discovers a hidden door and, after pushing it open, is quickly surrounded by hooded figures armed with machine guns. Led through the temple's vast mining operation, Chaop seizes the first opportunity to slip away. While searching for an escape route, he overhears a conversation between Zoltar and the spirit back on Spectra. Chaop learns that the temple is a cover for a selenite mining operation to power a new weapon. Before he can hear more, Dolly rushes into the temple, calling for Ali. She spots Chaop, shouting for him to hide, which alerts the guards. Dolly is captured, and Chaop escapes, contacting GeForce. Time passes, and despite their efforts, Zoltar and his soldiers can't find Chaop. They enter a chamber, but the air is filled with eerie laughter as 5 stone tombs open, revealing the mummies, who shed their bandages to reveal GeForce members. Mark confronts Zoltar, but the situation turns dire when a Spectra soldier threatens to drop a cage of villagers into the mining pit unless Mark surrenders. Dolly pleads for help, but Zoltar orders the cage to be dropped anyway. Mark releases Zoltar, throwing his sonic boomerang at the soldier to stop him. In the chaos, the soldier triggers the temple's self-destruct. As the temple crumbles, Chaop rescues the villagers, including Dolly, just in time. Zoltar and his men escape, leaving destruction behind. Outside, Dolly mourns, thinking she's lost Ali in the explosion, but Chaop can't bring himself to tell her the truth. Episode 62. Save the Space Colony. A UFO heads for planet Zebor, where one of Earth's space colonies is located. 7 Zark 7 alerts the colony, giving them a chance to escape. Meanwhile, Zoltar contacts the Spirit to discuss their latest scheme, the Great Spectra Offensive. If successful, it will allow Spectra to conquer the solar system and, eventually, the entire Milky Way. Chief Anderson hears the colony is under attack, but he refuses to deploy GeForce. He believes the assault is a trap to lure them in. As GeForce prepares for action, Anderson locks them in his briefing room, slamming a steel door to keep them inside. Frustrated by GeForce's delay, Zoltar orders the launch of ground-boring missiles, intending to escalate the attack and force their hand. Anderson wrestles with his decision, but finally realizes the gravity of the situation. He gives the green light, and GeForce speeds off to Zebor, landing on the planet's dark side. They choose an abandoned air control tower as their base of operations. Once inside, Chaop is startled by bats and falls through a glass window into an old plane wreck. He dangles helplessly until Mark uses his sonic boomerang to cut him free. Upon reaching him, Jason notices they've discovered an underground hangar. Tiny knocks on the wall, and the hollow sound leads him to punch through it. The team finds another room, revealing a Spectra missile arsenal. Jason places miniature devices on a few of the missiles before they continue exploring. Mark sends Tiny back to the Phoenix, while the others venture through air ducts. They overhear Zoltar discussing his grand plan, but a Spectra soldier interrupts, warning him that the arsenal has been breached. Zoltar panics, thinking a ghost is behind the intrusion, and his fear makes him sweat with desperation. Mark steps out to taunt him, teasing Zoltar about being afraid of ghosts. Zoltar flees in terror as Mark tosses mini-bombs, giving GeForce a chance to escape. Spectra's ship takes off, launching a volley of missiles that, thanks to Jason's devices, turn back and strike the Spectra ship. Zoltar makes a hasty getaway in an escape craft, but the missiles track it to the ocean, obliterating it completely. The space colony is saved, and GeForce successfully steals a cassette containing Spectra's invasion plans, though when Chief Anderson tries to play it, the tape self-destructs.
Strike 3!
Episode 63. Zoltar strikes out. GeForce is watching a baseball game on TV when Chaop becomes frustrated. His team's star player hits a perfect ball only to trip and get tagged out. As the game continues, Chief Anderson contacts them with urgent news. Spectra has constructed a massive blimp-sized bomb in the heart of the city. Because of the secrecy surrounding its construction, it must have taken about 6 months to build. Mark quickly realizes that the only place it could have been hidden for that long is the baseball park, which had been shut down during the off-season. GeForce decides to go to the park the next night to investigate. Princess and Mark attend the game as spectators, while Tiny works as a vendor. Jason serves as the scorekeeper, and Keop is the ball boy. The game is going smoothly, but just after a home run and a celebratory water fountain display, the stadium lights suddenly go out. When they flicker back on, all the baseball players, including Keop, have disappeared. The team springs into action, donning their uniforms and heading back into the stadium. Mark examines the second base and pries it loose with his sonic boomerang, uncovering a hidden Spectra base beneath the park. Before they can investigate further, the lights close in on them, disorienting the team. Mark and Princess fall into a deep chasm beneath the field, while Jason and Tiny escape it using a cable gun. Jason contacts Chief Anderson, confirming that the bomb is indeed hidden in the stadium. Keop wakes up in a cell, where he's joined by Mark and Princess. Princess uses explosives to break open the bars, and the team escapes, only to be ambushed by brainwashed baseball players armed with metal bats. They manage to fight them off, but Zoltar arrives, announcing that the bomb will be triggered by an Earthling. He sends his chief jailer to battle Mark while he escapes. Princess and Keop chase Zoltar to an amusement park, but he manages to escape in a rocket hidden in one of the rides. Meanwhile, Mark interrogates the jailer, learning that the bomb's trigger is linked to the fountain's water display. A home run will set it off. Jason, Tiny, Keop, and Princess try to stop the ball from reaching the fountain, but they miss. At the last moment, Mark uses his sonic boomerang to knock the ball away, averting disaster. Chief Anderson then confirms that the bomb will soon be dismantled.
Sorry, but I'm in charge here.
Episode 64, Magnetic Attraction. A mysterious UFO slips past the Outer Planetary Patrol, and 7 Zark 7 soon discovers that the enormous spherical craft has landed in Center City on Earth. The ship's sleek, round shape effortlessly deflects all defensive attacks, and before long, it lifts off and destroys the city's entire robot fighter plane squadron. With the threat now clear, Chief Anderson briefs GeForce. Mark decides against engaging, unsure of what they're dealing with, while Jason is eager to fight. A stalemate ensues, and Anderson decides the Federation will make the final call. Soon, 7 Zark 7 relays the order to attack. The team finds the ball floating over the ocean. Zoltar taunts them via video, daring GeForce to try to stop his machine. Jason is ready for battle, but Mark insists that this is exactly what Zoltar wants. Reluctantly, they return to base without taking action. Later, Princess and Keop visit Mark to cheer him up. Keop presents a toy, an iron ball and magnet that sparks an idea. Mark realizes they can use a giant magnet to trap the sphere, but first they need to lure it within range. The team sets off, but the sphere grows suspicious and veers off course. Mark decides that to make the plan work, he must control the sphere from the inside. Taking a leap of faith, Mark jumps from the Phoenix, landing aboard the sphere. Once inside, he overpowers the pilot and steers the craft straight into the magnet's pull. Both machines explode in a fiery blaze. The team, believing Mark is still inside, mourns their loss. But moments later, Mark glides down to safety. Unharmed, he and Princess later stop by 7 Zark 7 station, but the robot is on a quick oil break. Princess confesses she was worried when the magnet exploded, but Mark reassures her with a smile, telling her that he'll always return, because her magnetic attraction is far stronger than any danger. Blushing, Princess tries to hide her embarrassment, but Mark grins, telling her not to worry, as One Rover One, their loyal bot, will keep a secret.
It will be nothing but a pile of rubble!
Not yet, Zoltar!
Who questions my word?
Episode 65, Peaks of Planet Odin. Trouble was brewing on Planet Odin, and 7 Zark 7 sensed it. Chief Anderson quickly sent GeForce to investigate. Upon arrival, the team appeared to be relaxing, but they were keeping a sharp eye out for anything suspicious. Mark, casually sitting by the beach, was approached by an old friend, Cronus. Despite Cronus's assurances that there wouldn't be any trouble, trouble came anyway. Moments after their conversation, Cronus was swarmed by men, and Mark jumped into action to help fight them off. In the chaos, Cronus managed to escape, but Mark was left stunned to learn that the attackers were police officers. Back at a castle on Odin, Police Chief Albin was having a covert conversation with Zoltar, the menacing ruler of Spectra. Albin assured Zoltar that Cronus would soon be captured, and the evil leader was pleased to hear it. Zoltar spoke of a new weapon under construction, a giant wheel machine designed to help him take over Odin. Meanwhile, Mark was patrolling the skies when a fleet of Spectra jets ambushed him. He was daydreaming and didn't notice them until it was too late. Just as things looked grim, another mysterious jet swooped in and destroyed the Spectra fleet with a volley of missiles. Mark pursued the jet, transforming into his GeForce guise, and when they landed, he confronted the pilot, who, to his surprise, was Cronus. Cronus revealed that Police Chief Albin was a traitor to Odin, secretly working with Spectra. He was the last one left who could expose Albin's betrayal. At a cabin, Cronus shared his story. Despite warning everyone about Albin's treachery, no one believed him. His family was gone, and the small resistance group he had formed had dwindled. Mark proposed they take matters into their own hands. Together, they infiltrated Albin's castle, hoping to uncover his plans. When they tried to open a safe, they found nothing, but Albin appeared, revealing that the plans were hidden in his cigar box. Cronus stole them, and the two managed to escape. Later, during a holiday celebration, Zoltar unleashed his giant wheel machine, causing chaos. GeForce formed the Whirlwind Pyramid to battle him, forcing Zoltar to retreat inside the machine and flee. As the dust settled, Anderson reported that Cronus had gone missing after the attack. Mark set off alone to find him, and, with the help of Zark 7, eventually located Cronus. Together, they rescued Cronus's wife and son Timmy, bringing them all to safety.
I kinda get the feeling they're not glad to see us.
Episode 66, GeForce Defector. As Jason responds to a call from Zark 7, a sudden burst of bright light strikes him in the eye, causing a disturbing shift in his vision. The world around him blurs, and he starts to see double. His grip on the car falters, and before he can regain control, he accidentally hits an elderly woman crossing the street. Panicking, he rushes to help, relieved to find that she appears to be mostly unharmed, but something about her feels oddly familiar. Meanwhile, GeForce heads out on a mission without Jason. They encounter a mysterious caterpillar robot that uses a blinding light to disorient their vision and disable the Phoenix's radar. The robot then launches corrosive ooze bombs that begin eating away at the ship's outer hull. In a desperate move, Mark orders Tiny to push the Phoenix upwards at full power, narrowly evading the attack. Back on Earth, Jason finally realizes why the woman he hit seemed so familiar. She's the mother of Donald Wade, a former GeForce member who resigned under mysterious circumstances. It turns out Donald has joined forces with Spectra and helped develop the ooze bombs now being used against them. As Chief Anderson briefs the team on Wade's involvement, Jason storms in and a heated argument ensues. Frustrated, Jason mutters that maybe the best thing for him to do is resign from GeForce altogether. He storms off to clear his head, and Princess tries to comfort him, but he brushes her off, telling her to stay out of it. But the appearance of the caterpillar robot forces the team to act, and Jason reluctantly joins them. Once inside the robot, Jason makes his way to Wade's office and confronts him, determined to bring him back. However, Wade pulls a gun on him, and just as the tension peaks, Jason's vision blurs again, and he loses consciousness. When he wakes, he's in the same room, but Mark is now there. Wade's gun was loaded with blanks. He too had been betrayed by Spectra. The trio escapes the base just as the caterpillar robot explodes. Back on Earth, Jason visits Donald's mother and gives her flowers and a card from her son. She believes he's still on a secret mission and eagerly anticipates his return. Zark 7 assures Jason that his vision issues are temporary, caused by his own worries and stress. With everything behind them, Jason is relieved to finally have some peace.
What a farce! They think the game is over, and it has hardly begun. Head for our target!
Episode 67, Invasion of the Locusts. Zoltar is confident that his latest plan will bring Earth to its knees. With a specially designed mechanical locust, he intends to unleash swarms of mutant insects to ravage the planet's food supplies. Meanwhile, Professor Chambers, an expert entomologist, makes an alarming discovery in the Amazon, a strange new insect. Concerned about its potential danger, he enlists Cheop to join him on a research trip to the region. But things take a deadly turn when their plane is attacked by a massive swarm of locusts. In a desperate move, Cheop crash lands the plane, saving both their lives. Back at Spectra's headquarters, Zoltar controls a colossal grasshopper-like machine that launches the mechanical locusts. He sends them to Professor Chambers' lab, hoping to prevent the entomologist from studying the insects he's already captured. As the lab is overrun by the swarm, Cheop fights back by spraying a poisonous liquid, but the pair is trapped and unable to escape. Chief Anderson quickly sends the rest of GeForce to the rescue. In the lab, Chambers uncovers the secret behind the mechanical locusts. They emit a high-frequency sound that controls the real locusts. With the swarm closing in, he sets the lab on fire to drive them away. Zoltar, anticipating GeForce's arrival, leaves a giant signal in the shape of their emblem, hoping to lure them into a trap. Sure enough, the team arrives, only to be ambushed by another swarm. The Phoenix morphs into the fiery Phoenix, using its flames to destroy the locusts. Cheop reunites with the team, while Professor Chambers stays behind to finish his work. In a final showdown, GeForce uses the frequency of the mechanical locusts to turn the swarm against Zoltar's King Locust robot, which is destroyed by a well-placed missile. Zoltar and his forces narrowly escape, but it's a victory for Earth, at least for now.
Does this refresh your memory?
Episode 68, Victims of the Hawk. Diane and Orion, a husband and wife technician team, are the last survivors of Zoltar's devastating attack on the asteroid Kritola. Chief Anderson, worried about their safety, believes the couple could be prime targets due to their knowledge of the attack and the high-profile political connections of their parents. Fearing for their lives, Anderson sends GeForce to shadow them as they make their way back to Earth. Upon their arrival at the airport, Orion is greeted by his old friend Gino. Jason, sensing something off about Gino, decides to follow him after the brief reunion. However, Gino quickly notices Jason's watchful eyes and escapes before being followed too far. As Diane and Orion board another flight, they're suddenly kidnapped by a robotic stewardess, which transforms into a rocket and speeds them back to Kritola. GeForce quickly pursues, but their mission takes a dangerous turn when they're confronted by Spectra's Hawk robot, now under Gino's control. The Hawk disables the team one by one, and as Princess falls, a compact comes loose and opens. The reflection of light from the compact strikes the Hawk, causing its head to explode, and the machine crashes in the distance. With the Hawk destroyed, the team splits up to locate Orion and Diane. They eventually find Gino, who reveals his true identity as Zoltar. As he abandons the base, Mark comes across Diane and Orion, but they are no longer the people he once knew. Orion warns him to stay away, and Diane explains that their real bodies are locked away in a laboratory. The two are no longer human. They've been transformed into beings in Zoltar's image. With a flash of blinding light and a kiss, Diane and Orion vanish, leaving behind only a faint trace of their robotic forms. Later, 7 Zark 7 watches as a comet streaks away from Kritola, carrying them to a far-off paradise beyond the galaxy. Susan confirms that Diane and Orion are indeed aboard the comet, venturing into an unexplored time warp zone, perhaps to live on in a new form, far from the battles they once fought. Episode 69, Island of Fear. Chief Anderson has sent Cheop on a solo mission to investigate strange activity on Witch's Island, concerned that Spectra may be establishing a base there. The island is dangerously close to Center Neptune, and Zoltar's forces are preparing to strike with a fleet of advanced submarines. As Cheop remains submerged in his space buggy, he sees the submarines surrounding Center Neptune, and moments later, Zoltar launches a wave of torpedoes. Cheop swiftly counters with the Red Mist missile system, but despite his efforts, the torpedoes hit, causing an explosion that knocks him off course. Zoltar watches with satisfaction as his new weapons work as planned, confident that his strike will cripple Center Neptune. However, his triumph is short-lived. One of his men reports that hundreds of torpedoes are heading their way. This time, the torpedoes don't explode. Instead, they release a red mist into the water. Zoltar believes he's been spared, but as the water turns red, he realizes security has used their red mist missiles, packed with a powerful disintegrator. In a panic, he orders his fleet to surface, only to find the Phoenix waiting for them. GeForce splits into their vehicles, launching a fierce attack on Spectra's structures and vehicles on the island. Despite their efforts, they fail to locate Zoltar, who has gone back underwater in his main submarine. Keop, still in his space buggy, spots Zoltar's submarine from the air. Realizing his imminent defeat, Zoltar places a subordinate in charge, activates the submarine self-destruct, and escapes in a small ship. But the Phoenix tracks him down. When they catch up to the ship, they discover a Zoltar mannequin in the pilot's seat, rigged to explode. Mark, Jason, and Princess narrowly escape just before it detonates. Meanwhile, Keop's space buggy is badly damaged, flooding with water from an explosion. Tiny swoops in to rescue him, bringing both him and the Phoenix to safety, just as the submarine's destruct mechanism goes off. Mission complete, GeForce returns to Center Neptune, but Zoltar has once again escaped.
Got to make an effort, but only a miracle can help me.
Episode 70. Strike at Spectra. In a bid to preempt an incoming attack from Spectra, 7 Zark 7 has sent GeForce to strike first, but Susan calls with unsettling news. Zoltar might already know about their mission and could be waiting for them. 7 Zark 7 relays the information to Mark, who orders them to stay on high alert and enforces radio silence. As GeForce approaches Spectra, they begin their assault on a looming castle. Suddenly, the air is filled with the sharp whine of anti-aircraft fire. One hit lands close, knocking Jason to the deck. Dazed, he struggles to get back up, but a sharp pain in his head makes it difficult to focus. He tries to push through, even as he starts seeing double. Princess tries to help, but he angrily brushes her aside and fires a missile, obliterating the castle. After landing, GeForce moves through the ruins, but soon Zoltar's maniacal laughter echoes from hidden speakers. Before they can react, they find themselves locked inside a sealed chamber. As water floods the room, they scramble to escape using the whirlwind pyramid, but Jason's condition worsens. His head throbs painfully, and he falters out of formation, causing the rest of the team to stumble. Jason insists he's fine and tries again, but his dizziness causes them to fall to the floor. They manage to escape, but Mark, seeing how unstable Jason is, orders him to return to the Phoenix while the others continue to sabotage Spectra's operations. On the Phoenix, Jason struggles with the pain in his head, his vision still blurry. Frustrated, he lashes out, punching control panels in a rage. As he doubts whether he can continue, Mark's voice comes over the communicator, telling him they're depending on him. They're trapped in a rotating whirlwind torpedo heading for Spectra's core, and Jason is their only hope. With great effort, he steadies the Phoenix and prepares for a super sniper missile shot. His vision clears just long enough for him to take the shot, and the missile strikes true, disabling the torpedo. GeForce escapes the collapsing castle as it erupts in a fiery explosion. Jason, though still disoriented, picks them up, and Tiny jokes about his novice piloting. 7 Zark 7 reassures Jason that he's come through the crisis and will be just fine.
GeForce! You don't look very happy to see me, Mala of Spectra.
Episode 71. The Galaxy Girls. While transporting Chief Anderson to his mountain retreat, Jason's vehicle is ambushed by a mysterious woman wearing a blue mask. She forces them off a bridge into a deep body of water and, just as they prepare for the worst, hurls a rose-shaped bomb after them. Jason manages to convert his car into a submersible and escapes the danger. Back at Spectra, Zoltar's sister, Mala, learns that her operative, Galaxy Girl, has failed to eliminate Jason and Chief Anderson. Enraged, Mala decides to take matters into her own hands. At his mountain retreat, Chief Anderson warns GeForce about Zoltar's new threat, the Solar Express. The world's first monorail designed to circle the globe is set to be blown up during its maiden voyage. Chief Anderson and Mark will board the train to protect it, while Princess, Tiny, and Keop cover them from above in the Phoenix. Jason, however, is elsewhere and unable to join them, but as soon as he returns, he realizes where the team has gone and sets off to join them. Marla, posing as a public relations representative, greets Chief Anderson and Mark as they board the train. While Anderson enjoys her company, Mark feels an unsettling familiarity about her. Later, when Mark notices some unusual rocket cars out the window, he tries to warn the others, but Marla knocks him out with the butt of her gun. Thankfully, 7 Zark 7 remotely wakes him via his wrist communicator. Mark confronts Marla, who reveals herself to be Zoltar's sister. She then detaches the main car of the train from the rest, and her Galaxy girls destroy a bridge, isolating the train. As the train enters a tunnel, the lights go out. When they flicker back on, Mark has taken her place, battling Marla and Spectra soldiers inside the car. Meanwhile, 7 Zark 7 directs Princess to take out the Galaxy girls outside, but the ensuing fight destroys a bridge ahead of them. With no way to stop the train, it plummets toward the destroyed bridge with Chief Anderson still aboard. Luckily, Tiny arrives just in time to rescue him. Though the destruction is devastating, Spectra is driven away, and Mark reassures everyone that the damage can be rebuilt. Episode 72, The Conway Tape Tap. Mark and GeForce are in the middle of a high-stakes mission, taking down a Spectra monster robot threatening to unleash a new cosmic beam. Mark infiltrates the robot from the inside, sabotaging it just before narrowly escaping as it crashes into a snowy mountainside. With Mark safely retrieved, GeForce heads back to Center Neptune. At headquarters, 7 Zark 7 is anxious about Jason's recent behavior. He's worried the stress is getting to him. His concerns grow when he learns that the Conway terminal, which houses vital Federation defense codes, is being jammed. Only a serious infiltration could cause this, and 7 Zark 7 suspects Zoltar's involvement. He calls in GeForce to bolster security around the Conway complex. Chief Anderson briefs them on the situation. A leak at the complex, with 2 security agents already missing. To minimize attention, Mark and Princess are sent in alone. Jason, frustrated at being left out, reluctantly agrees after Chief Anderson explains that Dr. Fogarty specifically requested their help. Jason hands Mark his gun and remains behind to lead GeForce if trouble arises. Mark and Princess quickly find signs of Spectra spies and track them to the top floor, where they discover a helicopter transmitting a Spectra code. As they sneak on board to investigate, they learn that Spectra agents Lokar and Barlek have successfully stolen the Conway tapes. The agents take off in a rocket hidden in the helicopter, with Mark and Princess still on board. Despite Chief Anderson's objections, GeForce is determined to pursue the ship, but a decision from the Space Alliance is still pending. Meanwhile, Keop and Tiny realize Jason is missing. On Spectra, Lokar and Barlek deliver the stolen tapes to Zoltar, only to find they're useless without a decoder. Meanwhile, Mark and Princess escape their confinement and disguise themselves as Spectra soldiers. The duo confront Zoltar, demanding the return of the tapes. Zoltar drops them as a diversion, and Princess grabs them using her yo-yo. Zoltar attempts to flee in his Devil starship, but Mark and Princess hitch a ride underneath, only to be dropped off on a swampy surface. Zoltar orders a pursuit, but a mysterious figure watches from afar. It's Jason, who comes to the rescue in his car, taking down Spectra's swamp vehicles. As Jason blasts apart a mechanical serpent Zoltar created, the battle ends in a fiery explosion. With the serpent destroyed, Mark and Princess reunite with Jason, surprised to learn he came alone. Jason opens his gun's compartment to reveal the missing decoder, leaving Zoltar seething with frustration. As GeForce heads home victorious, 7 Zark 7 is amazed they managed to defeat Zoltar on his own turf, returning the Conway tapes safely to the Federation. Episode 73, The Awesome Ray Force. The Spirit had put Spectra's Dr. Glock to work on modifying their anatomic replicator, an upgrade that could reverse the transmutation effect. Previously, when they had recreated Princess from a captured shoe, they almost caught her, but now the Spirit had bigger plans. They wanted to turn their newly acquired tech on GeForce. When Dr. Glock's adjustments proved wildly successful in the lab, The spirit ordered a real-world test on a GeForce member. Jason, disobeying Chief Anderson's call to abandon his race and return to base, chose to finish his victory lap instead. As he sped toward the team to report, the spirit's transmutation ray intercepted him. Jason's car was hit mid-transformation and reverted to civilian mode, leaving him vulnerable. Quickly surrounded by Spectra forces, Jason tried to jump out of the air but was struck again, this time in the foot. He fell and detransmuted completely, slipping away from the soldiers before they could grab him. As they retreated to adjust their weapon, Jason limped back to Center Neptune, only to find GeForce had already launched their mission. Chief Anderson didn't believe Jason's story at first, until he heard the details of the ray. GeForce's mission took them to Lulo, a subterranean city previously attacked by Zoltar. Mark led the search for survivors, but things took a turn when he encountered a single survivor who revealed herself to be Zoltar in disguise. With a swift command, Mark was surrounded, and the anti-transmutation ray struck him mid-air. He fell, losing consciousness as Zoltar's soldiers moved in. Awakening hours later, in a bed with Cronus standing over him, Mark learned that his team, Princess, Tiny, and Keop, had been captured by Spectra. With no time to lose, Mark contacted Chief Anderson, who revealed the ray's energy field could be reversed. Mark, Cronus, and his team set off to stop Zoltar and free their comrades. Just as Zoltar aimed to fire the ray at GeForce's trapped members, Jason arrived, breaking them free. The team scrambled into position, and Mark, disguised as Colonel Cronus, approached Zoltar. As the villain tried to track the team's rapid movements, his ray overheated from constant use, exploding just as predicted. Zoltar escaped, but not before Cronus and his men chased him out of the city. Episode 74, Fearful Sea Anemone. While checking on the progress of a top-secret Federation underwater project on a distant planet in Galaxy 30, 7's Arc 7 is suddenly attacked by a monstrous sea anemone. Reacting quickly, 7's Arc 7 contacts GeForce, summoning them to investigate. They arrive aboard the Phoenix, immediately descending into the depths, where they encounter the gargantuan creature. The anemone fires at them, but Tiny expertly dodges the blasts. They lay down a smokescreen to cover their escape and retreat to the surface. As the team rests, Keop, eager to prove himself, sets off on his own in a small vehicle to track down the creature. But the sea anemone has other plans and ambushes him just as he arrives at the Federation's secret base. The creature ensnares Keop's vehicle and drags it inside. Meanwhile, Zoltar, now in control of the beast, thanks Keop for leading him straight to the base, preparing to launch an attack that will destroy it. In a frantic attempt to warn the Federation, Keop contacts GeForce, giving them a chance to evacuate. Jason uses the moment to pinpoint Keop's location, and the team rushes to save him, but by the time they arrive, Zoltar has already arrived and obliterated the base with the sea anemone's weaponry. Mark launches a missile at the creature, hoping to destroy it. The missile hits, but instead of killing the anemone, it disables its weapons and opens a hatch, providing the perfect opportunity for GeForce to infiltrate. They surprise Zoltar and his men, and Jason rescues Keop's vehicle from the creature's grasp. Zoltar retreats through a secret door, just as Mark believes he's cornered. GeForce escapes as the anemone, severely damaged, plummets into an undersea chasm. Back aboard the Phoenix, Keop feels guilty, thinking he caused the destruction of the Federation's base by acting impulsively. But 7's Arc 7 delivers a surprising message. The base wasn't destroyed, it was a decoy. The real base is fully operational. GeForce, mission accomplished, heads home, none the wiser to the ruse. Episode 75, The Alien Beetles. Three curious young boys stumble upon strange beetles at a construction yard and, intrigued, decide to take them home. Meanwhile, Keop, on a mission to find a rare butterfly for 7's Arc 7, comes across the same kind of beetle. Thinking it's cute, he takes one home as well. That night, the beetles suddenly grow to enormous sizes, and to everyone's shock, they kidnap the boys. The massive creatures begin wreaking havoc in the capital city. Kinich, Zoltar's ruthless commander, observes that their plan to use the boys as power sources for the beetles is unfolding perfectly. The Spirit, a shadowy figure, believes this could be the key to saving the dying planet Spectra. As the chaos intensifies, Mark takes charge. While surveying the city, he follows one of the beetles and contacts 7 Zark 7. Mark initially believes he can take the beetle down, but 7 Zark 7 warns that Keop is inside it, hooked up to some kind of machine. Mark uses an X-ray to confirm, then follows the beetle's trail to a hidden base. He alerts the rest of GeForce to meet him there. Once inside, Princess locates Keop and, with the help of his wrist bracelet, frees him. Mark asks Jason to create a distraction so they can escape, and Jason, always ready for action, drives his car straight through the base. With the boys safely freed, they're quickly confronted by Zoltar, who unleashes the beetles against the Phoenix. But just as things seem hopeless, Colonel Cronus and his team appear out of nowhere, destroying the beetles in a flash before vanishing without a word. Zoltar orders the base to be demolished, taking down his men in the process. In the aftermath, Jason nearly gets trapped in the wreckage, but Tiny pilots the Phoenix to rescue him. As they head back to base, the boys, grateful for their rescue, dream of one day joining GeForce when they grow up. Episode 76, Defector to Spectra. At the Intergalactic Federation headquarters, 7 Zark 7 uncovers evidence that a Spectra spy is lurking within the Federation ranks. Dr. Greg, the Federation's trusted scientist, has been acting strangely, and Chief Anderson notices him surreptitiously placing a recording device on one of the Federation's computers. To figure out why Dr. Greg is aiding the enemy, Anderson and GeForce devise a plan. Mark will pretend he wants to defect to Spectra. Mark contacts Dr. Greg, and the two head to the doctor's home. There, Mark notices a photo of Dr. Greg's daughter, Amanda, who has been missing for 3 days. Suddenly, it all clicks. Amanda must be in Spectra's custody, and they are using her to force Greg into their service. As Mark presses for more information, Dr. Greg pulls a gun on him and activates a hidden switch, trapping Mark inside an electric force field. Desperate to understand the full scope of the situation, GeForce follows Greg's car. Keop, ever the curious one, starts fiddling with a nearby car and accidentally activates a hidden mechanism, sending the entire vehicle into an underground Spectra base. Inside, Dr. Greg meets with Zoltar, handing over the stolen master code. Zoltar demands that Greg eliminate GeForce, but Greg hesitates. He never wants to become a traitor, let alone an assassin. Zoltar's threat of severing their deal, however, leaves him with little choice. Mark realizes that Dr. Greg is trapped between his love for his daughter and his fear of Spectra's power. He offers to help rescue Amanda, and after some persuasion, Greg agrees. Mark tracks Zoltar to his secondary base, sneaking in to free Amanda. They manage to escape just as Zoltar sets a time bomb and takes off with the master code, which Dr. Greg reveals was programmed to erase itself. With Amanda safe and reunited with her father, they board a train back home. As they travel, Amanda can't stop thinking about Mark, sensing something unspoken between them. When she goes to another car, Mark is there, but neither of them speaks. Amanda walks past him, knowing he has other responsibilities, and Mark remains silent, burdened by his duty to GeForce and his feelings for Princess. Episode 77, The Bat Ray Bombers. A UFO appears on the horizon, but Tiny's wrist radio is out of reach, and 7 Zark 7 can't make contact. Without the aid of GeForce or the Phoenix, the craft easily destroys an ocean-going vessel. In the aftermath, Tiny is called to a debriefing. With a heavy heart, he admits to falling asleep and removing his wrist radio, which is against protocol. Chief Anderson, displeased with the lapse, suspends Tiny from GeForce. Feeling the weight of his mistake, Tiny returns to his small hometown. He soon discovers that the local fishermen are terrified. Boats have been disappearing and they've stopped going out to sea altogether. Back at Center Neptune, Chief Anderson is analysing debris from the sunken ships and makes a shocking discovery. The ships bear traces of an element only found on Spectra, their enemy's home planet. GeForce needs to find Spectra's base and stop them, but Tiny's mind is still preoccupied with the fishermen's plight. While diving with his friend Tommy, Tiny uncovers a hidden Spectra bat ray machine underwater. After a tense moment, he swears Tommy to secrecy. GeForce arrives in town soon after, launching their investigation into the sunken ships. Tiny, however, is struggling with his emotions and walks away, determined to tackle the bat ray on his own. Mark follows Tiny's path, eventually locating Spectra's hidden base. But inside the control room, the villainous Gola is watching. Tiny is captured, and Mark soon falls victim to gas jets that knock him out. Trapped together, Tiny and Mark manage to break free, flooding the base and destroying the Batray machines. But with no way to escape, GeForce is called in. Jason arrives with the Phoenix, and Keop rushes to save them. The village celebrates their newfound safety, and Tiny is reinstated to GeForce, with Chief Anderson offering a second chance. The team heads back to Center Neptune, stronger and united. Episode 78, Rage of the Robotoids. Susan urgently contacts 7 Zark 7 with alarming news. An unidentified object is hurtling toward Earth. After pinpointing Metro City as the target, Chief Anderson quickly orders GeForce to investigate. As they race to the site, Jason spots a taxi on a mountain road under attack by a group of robot mannequins. When the driver and a young woman named Tina attempt to flee, the driver is struck, and Tina is backed toward a dangerous cliff. Without hesitation, Jason leaps from his car to rescue her, but the Robotoids force her over the edge. At Center Neptune, tensions rise between Jason and Mark. Jason defends Tina, believing she's innocent, while Mark is suspicious of her presence on the mountain road. Jason, frustrated, goes to visit her, but before he can reach her room, he sees a nurse attacked by the same ring weapons the mannequins used. He watches Tina leave the scene, and it becomes clear to him that Mark's caution may have been justified. Jason follows Tina down to the waterfront, but his call to Mark is abruptly interrupted when a group of Robotoids ambushes him. Meanwhile, Princess is chasing a Robotoid into a junkyard when she is overpowered. Tiny, flying overhead in the Phoenix, notices her bike abandoned and lands to investigate. He's soon surrounded by more Robotoids and alerts Mark before being knocked out. At Spectra's base, the truth about Tina is revealed. She had been working for them to save her parents, whom Spectra had captured. Zoltar's sister, Mala, is forcing her to cooperate. After GeForce is captured, Tina helps them escape and warns that Zoltar plans to destroy everything to capture her. Eventually, GeForce manages to escape the base before it explodes. Later, 7 Zark 7 explains that Tina was only trying to protect her family. Mark and Princess visit to share the good news. Tina's parents have escaped to the friendly planet of Tolak. Mark and Princess rush to tell Tina that her parents are safe. Episode 79, The Sky is Falling Part 1. Susan urgently contacts 7 Zark 7 with disturbing news. Spectra's deadly new weapon on planet Riga is now operational. While the Federation has been aware of its construction for a while, they've been unable to stop it. 7 Zark 7 puts GeForce on standby, but also delivers an unexpected message for Mark. A former Space Academy classmate, Tom, was found injured and specifically asked for Mark. Mark insists Tom be sent to his airfield shack to recover. Soon after, a Rygan delegate delivers a chilling message from Spectra to Chief Anderson. The Federation must surrender, or Spectra will launch the X3 weapon. Mark meets Tom at his shack, but Tom casually mentions that Mark's father is still alive. Mark is stunned. He had assumed his father was lost forever. Tom reveals that he ran into Mark's father in Riga just a week ago. Mark, shaken and eager for answers, decides to travel to Riga with Tom. While Chief Anderson and GeForce prepare for the mission to stop Spectra's weapon, Mark's solo mission doesn't sit well with the team. If the X3 weapon is launched, it will destroy the Van Allen belts protecting Earth, unleashing deadly solar radiation. On Riga, GeForce is immediately confronted by a menacing Spectra ship, but Mark, following Tom, walks into a trap. Tom is a Spectra agent. Back on the Phoenix, Princess figures out how to activate the bird missiles, allowing GeForce to destroy the Spectra ship. However, Zoltar, realizing the Federation won't surrender, begins the countdown to launch the X3. Mark, now a prisoner, is unexpectedly freed by Colonel Cronus, who reveals a shocking truth. Years ago, Anderson sent Cronus on a secret mission to Riga, leaving his 4-year-old son behind. That boy was Mark. As the X3 reaches Earth, the Van Allen belts destabilize, icebergs melt, tsunamis rage, and catastrophic disasters unfold worldwide. GeForce is left to watch, powerless to stop the devastation.
Mark, don't! That man is your father!
Cronus, my father?
Episode 80, The Sky is Falling Part 2. The Earth is in chaos. Spectra's X3 missile has unleashed devastating atmospheric changes, tearing the planet apart. In a desperate move, Zoltar contacts GeForce, offering them one last chance. Surrender now, and he will reverse the effects of the X3. But time is running out. He gives them just 24 hours to respond. Chief Anderson realizes the potential to save the Earth, but it would require a massive missile, a weapon GeForce doesn't have. The team quickly deduces that Spectra might have one, and Jason and Keop are determined to steal it. Anderson reluctantly approves the mission. At Spectra's base, Zoltar's men inform him that the missile is incomplete without its computer brain. It would take at least 2 days to finish it, but Zoltar is unwilling to wait. He demands immediate results. Meanwhile, GeForce receives a signal from Mark, and they rush to rescue him. Disguised as Spectra soldiers, Mark and Cronus have infiltrated the base to sabotage the missile. But when Zoltar arrives for an inspection, he recognizes them, and the two reveal their true identities, capturing Zoltar. Before they can act, the Phoenix crashes through the wall of the base, and Zoltar escapes. Cronus declares his intention to pilot the missile to Earth himself, but Mark insists on being in charge. In a tense moment, Mark grabs Cronus, only for Princess to stop him, revealing that Cronus is his father. Mark is shocked, and Cronus confirms the truth before knocking him aside and taking control of the missile. Cronus successfully reaches Earth, detonating the missile just in time to reverse the effects of the X3. Back at Center Neptune, Mark and Princess learn from 7 Zark 7 that moments before the missile's detonation, an escape capsule ejected. The capsule was headed back to Riga. Mark's father not only saved Earth, but escaped unharmed. Episode 81, The Fierce Flowers, Part 1. Zoltar, from one of Spectra's moons, launches a spaceship led by his ruthless henchman, Captain Morlack, carrying a sinister gift for Earth. As the ship lands, it releases innocent-looking white flower petals over major cities worldwide. That evening, when the rain falls, the petals sprout and grow into monstrous carnivorous plants, wreaking havoc on the planet. GeForce is called into action, but by the time they arrive, the situation is already dire. Princess stays behind at a cafe to gather intel when the flowers suddenly attack. Using her transmutation powers, she fights off the vicious plants and escapes. At Center Neptune, Chief Anderson reveals a specially designed suit created by 7 Zark 7. The suit, which is most effective on women, allows its wearer to enter the heart of the plants and discover their weaknesses. Reluctantly, Princess is assigned the dangerous mission. That night, as she drives down a desolate highway, the flowers strike again, and this time, they capture her. She's swallowed by one of the plants, leaving her teammates frantic and searching for her. Mark leads the charge to find Princess, but his search leads him into a trap set by Spectra's armed motorcyclists. Though he narrowly escapes, his search for Princess continues. Eventually, Mark locates a mountain completely overtaken by the plants. When he reports back to Center Neptune, Chief Anderson orders an airstrike to destroy the entire area. Mark protests, fearing Princess might be trapped inside the field, but Anderson insists. Reluctantly, Mark fires a missile and burns the mountainside to the ground, only to realize too late that fire actually causes the plants to thrive and spread faster. Episode 82, The Fierce Flowers, Part 2. The entire GeForce team is reeling from the loss of Princess. Mark, in particular, is consumed with guilt, haunted by the belief that he is the one who caused her death. In the midst of their grief, 7 Zark 7 tirelessly searches for a solution to stop the deadly, indestructible flowers that are steadily advancing and threatening to obliterate Earth's cities. Despite his efforts, no answers seem to surface, and the situation grows dire as evacuations continue in major urban centers. Mark's sorrow is abruptly interrupted by a crackling radio signal. It's Princess, alive. Her secret code, once thought lost forever, comes through loud and clear. Elation replaces grief as GeForce races to the location from which her transmission originates. However, this turn of events is exactly what Zoltar had anticipated. Prepared for GeForce's arrival, he has his escape rockets ready, bracing for the worst-case scenario should the flowers fail to do their job. Meanwhile, Chief Anderson makes a startling discovery while experimenting with the flowers. A simple cut on his finger results in a drop of his blood landing on on a petal, and to his astonishment, the flower begins to decompose instantly. Recognizing the significance of this, he urgently informs Zark 7, who quickly formulates a plan. As Mark closes in on the old water plant where Princess is being held, Chief Anderson contacts him with urgent news. Zark 7 has created a chemical bomb containing a rare iron molecule found only in blood, capable of destroying the flowers. Mark rushes to Center Neptune to collect the bomb, and with Colonel Cronus and his team standing by, they launch the device. The flowers disintegrate, and Earth is freed from the clutches of Zoltar's evil once more, marking the end of a terrifying chapter for GeForce and humanity alike. Episode 83, Charioteers of Chang. Princess is sent by Chief Anderson to Chang village to investigate reports of ancient Roman-style charioteers terrorizing the area. She's no stranger to the place, having studied meditation there in the past. Unbeknownst to her, Keop follows her without permission, determined to protect her. Chief Anderson, however, has his own plan. He secretly wants to blow Princess's cover, so he sends the rest of GeForce to track down Keop. When Keop reaches the village, he meets an old blind man named Akadan, who seems to be the target of the mysterious charioteers. When the robots attack, leveling Akadan's cabin, Keop rushes to help, and they narrowly escape through a hidden underground trapdoor. Meanwhile, Mark, Jason, and Tiny fight off the charioteers outside, unaware that Keop and Akadan are hidden inside the cabin. After the battle, they spot Keop's vehicle near the ruins, but can't reach him through their communicators. Mark suggests using the horses left by the charioteers to track down their source. In the safety of the cabin, Akadan shares the ancient legend of Chang. He reveals that long ago, people from the stars came to the village, claiming to be gods. They enslaved the villagers, forcing them to build a massive stone idol named Chang. The leader of these invaders was none other than Zoltar. Through Chang, Zoltar gained the power to control the people and travel between worlds. As Keop steps outside, he mistakenly throws his weapon at Princess, who is surprised to see him there. Just then, Zoltar arrives, furious that Akadan has revealed the secret of the idol. The battle intensifies as the rest of GeForce arrives in chariots, and they fight off the robots, ultimately shattering the Chang idol and ending Zoltar's plans. The team returns home victorious. Episode 84, Invasion of Space Center, Part 1. Spectra has launched another attack, and 7 Zark 7 watches as an object crashes into one of Earth's oceans. Not far from Center Neptune, a Spectra submarine surfaces near a cruise ship, and a soldier appears from the top of the sub, signaling to Lothar, who is already aboard the ship. Once Lothar spots the signal, he sneaks into the engine room, quietly planting a homing device. With his mission complete, Lothar escapes back to the Spectra submarine and reports to Zoltar, confirming that the signal is strong and clear. The cruise ship is their first target. Zoltar launches a new series of Spectra missiles, fine-tuned to track the homing device. As the missiles close in on the ship, Zoltar ominously mentions that next time they'll use live ammo. Back at GeForce's headquarters, the team is relaxing in their ready room when 7 Zark 7 interrupts with a red alert. Chief Anderson briefs them on the missile attack, confirming that Spectra is behind it. The team prepares for action to track down Spectra's missile base. Tiny pilots the Phoenix underwater, and 2 kilometers from the strike zone, Spectra sends out a group of crab attackers to create a diversion. While the crew deals with the threat, Lothar quietly attaches his submarine to the underside of the Phoenix. As the ship docks, the Spectra sub detaches and secretly attaches to the exterior hull of the research center. The Spectra team, disguised as scientists, infiltrates Center Neptune. They locate the sub and begin their mission to plant the homing device in the heart of the research complex. GeForce is aware of the plan, so Mark and Princess stay behind to track the intruders, while Tiny, Jason, and Keop continue searching for the missile base. After planting the device, the Spectra agents return to the sub, but they are spotted by Mark and Princess. Despite a brief chase, they manage to evade capture and report their success to Zoltar. Meanwhile, Mark and Princess scramble to locate the missile base before the incoming attack. As Zoltar launches the missiles, Chief Anderson confirms they're on a collision course and there's no way to stop them.
We've won, sire! We've destroyed their center!
Episode 85, Invasion of Space Center, Part 2. GeForce is still desperately trying to locate the homing device that's guiding the missiles to their target. Despite their best efforts, the missiles strike with devastating accuracy, causing massive damage. The personnel manage to escape just in time as the complex begins flooding from the impact. Missiles continue to strike the heart of the center, and Chief Anderson orders everyone to head for the escape hatches. Frantically, he tries to contact 7 Zark 7, but there's no response. With the situation growing dire, he tells Mark and Princess that finding the homing device is now crucial. He will stay behind to destroy sensitive files so they don't fall into Zoltar's hands. Meanwhile, on the Phoenix, Jason decides to head back to the base after hearing nothing from Mark and the others. As the base continues to take hits, Mark and Princess find themselves trapped by fire and rising water. In the emergency center, Chief Anderson struggles to light a pile of files and books on fire, but before he can, a missile hits, knocking everything sideways. Anderson is trapped under a computer, and his lighter falls, igniting the books. When Jason, Tiny, and Keop return, they find the research center sinking and in serious trouble. Mark pounds on the locked door of the emergency center, desperate to reach Anderson, who lies unconscious inside. Just then, Jason contacts Mark. He reassures Jason that they're okay, but Anderson needs help. Tiny maneuvers the Phoenix to move the center, narrowly avoiding another missile barrage. The complex sinks to a lower ledge, and the crew of the Spectra sub believe they've successfully destroyed it. But Mark and Princess know the truth. It's not over yet. As the base continues to sink, Jason and Tiny work together to locate Mark and Princess. They crash the Phoenix into the research center, puncturing part of the hull. Jason and Keop begin to make their way to B section, but Keop struggles to hold his breath and starts to lose consciousness. Jason pulls him to safety, but a falling piece of machinery traps Keop's cape. With little air left, Jason is desperate. Fortunately, 7 Zark 7 reaches them, and Jason starts to run out of time. With the help of 7 Zark 7, they escape just before the research center plunges to the ocean floor. Chief Anderson regains consciousness on board the Phoenix. He orders Tiny to return and destroy the base to ensure the top secret files stay out of Spectra's hands. Tiny launches missiles, and the center is obliterated. Though 7 Zark 7 is upset about its destruction, he's already thinking ahead, planning a new, ultra-modern replacement. As we come to a close, I am sure with its space-age setting, thrilling battles, and strong team dynamic, Battle of the Planets might be a runner-up in becoming your cult favourite. It received a lot of attention at the time for its exciting action scenes, its futuristic concepts, and the great camaraderie that existed among the GeForce personnel. A significant number of Western viewers were exposed to Japanese animation via this medium, which paved the way for the increasing popularity of anime during the 1980s and onward. But as it is with any show, there were critical views on this show too. Particularly, critics pointed out the extensive editing and changes that were made to the original Gatchaman, with some of them bemoaning the absence of the darker and more mature themes that were included in the original. However, for a great number of fans, Battle of the Planets, 1978 to 1980, was their first exposure to the fascinating world of narrative in the manner of anime, and an overwhelming sense of nostalgia for the series continues to exist. Lastly, it would mean a lot for us if you like the video and subscribe to our channel for more of this cartoon nostalgia.